it warm in here?
It's usually freezing. They must have fixed the
Something's wrong.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Laconia regular planning board meeting. It is Tuesday, November 1st, 2016. It is at 6:30, so we can begin our agenda. And the first is a call to order, and I'd like to ask our recording secretary, Kalina Graham, if you would call the members to determine whether they're here or not.
Charlie Sinclair.
Here.
Mike Lamani.
Here.
Jay Tibnan.
Here.
Ed Bonis.
Here.
Bill Contardo.
Yep.
Councilor Bear.
Present.
Ham McQueen.
Here.
And Chair Hutchins.
And with us at the table this evening is our acting planning director, our interim planning director, Brandy Laughlin. I would like to point out that Councilor Bear is here this evening because she is the appointed alternate from the City Council for the City Council's liaison position. David Bounds is normally here, and he could not be here this evening. And so that is why she is here, and welcome.
Thank you.
There are two regular members of the planning board who aren't here yet, Jerry Mailu and Michael Della Vecchia. And I would like to ask our two alternates, Michael Lamani and Charlie Sinclair, if you would vote this evening as full voting members. Now, if either one of them comes in, we'll adjust that. But normally, both of them are here by this time. And so, please, be full voting members. Let's see, nothing else official that I have to do. What we are going to do, in deference to the number of people that are here that we feel do want to address the board during the public hearing on the proposed zoning changes, that we're going to move that forward. And after that, we're going to do the new business section, and then move into the extensions and the public hearings on normal business. This is what we did last month, and it respects your time and our time too. So what I would like to do then is the discussion of the CR2 zone proposal. The next step for us in our procedures here is to conduct a public hearing. Now, the public hearing, for those of you who haven't done this before, we're actually a pretty friendly group, and what I'd like to do is just ask you to come forward, speak into the microphone, identify who you are and where you live, and then you can share with us your concerns or your comments. The testimony is for this board. This is like a presidential election. Please don't cheer, please don't stamp feet, please don't whatever, it's just between the moderator and the presidential candidates here. At the conclusion, when I do close the public hearing, at that point in time, the discussion will only be for the members of the planning board here. It is a public meeting. You're certainly welcome to sit there and to observe. But please, at that time, don't raise your hand thinking that, geez, I want to say something, geez, I missed something, my gosh, what are they talking about? This is our time to discuss and to resolve what our next action step will be. So when I do open the public hearing, we'll just take it however order anybody wants to come up, and we'll be more than happy to learn from you. So without any further ado, I will open the public hearing for the discussion of the CR2 zone proposal at 6:35. So who would like to be the first person to come up and discuss things with us? Pardon me?
I was just curious if we could ask questions if somebody says something, we had a question.
During the open public hearing, yes, you can.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yeah. I would like to just keep semblance of control, that we don't ask 4 or 5 questions at the same time of different people. So who would like to lead off and talk to us about this zoning change? Yes, Mr. Foote.
Greetings. How are you guys doing tonight? Good. It's good to see us all here and addressing our quaint little corner of the world which we would like to see grow and flourish. One of the things I've learned about being I'm sorry, did I say Mike Foot? That's so I can address who I am.
And Roller Coaster Road?
Roller coaster, perfect, as long as it did it. One of the things about, our interesting little community here is, for so long, the Weirs has been a spot, and when you're out in the world, you talk about it, people are like, oh, I vacation there, that's a beautiful spot. We come in, and there's a lot of resort-type memories and places that is how people imagine us. When we look at this here, that's been placed before us, sometimes it's hard to come up and know whether you're for or against something when you're using a set of numbers that have been also described as arbitrary. Our setbacks are, and it's to test the waters so we can have discussion about it, which is great in process. One of the things I would like to know more about is our master plan. I think a lot of this stuff, and we're close to the master plan, this is being put together by our Lakes Region Planning Commission, the parts that haven't been taken care of yet, like our land usage and how we're going with this. It's kind of the cart leading the horse here. I think when I look at these things and these changes, it's hard to conceptualize the science that was placed behind it. When we talk about a mix of commercial versus residential, here in Laconia, we pay the same rate on tax as residential and commercial. So really, what is it that we're looking at here? Are we looking, recently a lot of our development here in Laconia in the northern part of our community has been driven by developers, some of this very nice high-end housing. And it's curious that this vision that comes with 100-foot high houses and zero lot setbacks for densities is, I'd like to know where the science comes from. I'd like to know, is this a recommended thing? Is this a proper mix? What kind of communities have what kind of mix? Certainly, we wouldn't have the same commercial mix as Portsmouth or Concord or, I don't know, here's one of my favorite little communities is North Conway. And it'd be interesting, to know where it is we're going here. What is it that we're resisting? Is it resisting mobile homes? Is it resisting campgrounds? Is it the design of the campground? Would these restrict in some way development in the Weirs without fully looking at our setbacks? A 50-foot setback on a small lot on Route 3 could take up a good section of the property, especially if it were a challenged lot. Maybe that with a sidewalk and the shorter setback that we have in our current CR zone would be more adaptable for that piece of property. General 400-foot setback, what is it we're looking for here? What is the design of it? Maybe a lot of the properties along there are only 200 feet deep. And so how would it affect what you would do behind it? Some of our community that has been developed there, and I look to Aqua Soleil, are they truly interested in building a mall in front of what land they have when they come to develop for their golf course or some very prime land that's there? Certainly, in our zoning ordinances where we say we have restrictions at 60 feet in height, if there were a group to come forward that needed that 100-foot building, wouldn't that be a variance in a piece of property? Wouldn't it come in, and if it were a project that had value and jobs for the community, I would consider that the boards of this community would go through the procedure and be able to consider some of these things. Just because it's set at 60 doesn't mean that's the limit now. When you set it at 100, it certainly sets at a higher point before there's review. maybe this is one of the things we want to look at, is that what we have now gives it a point of discussion also. And I think what I would like to really see is some of the final stuff from the master plan. I know that we can approach these ideas with input from other people, but I think really I'd like to see it be guided by science, input, the master plan, which we have to do anyways, and we're about complete on this, certainly with the Planning Commission being able to help us, assist us to come to some sort of vision. That, you know, I think that that would be something we'd want to consider, rather than leaping into these numbers, which are admittedly some sort of arbitrary number. So as we're considering this, or before people get outraged or anything like that, I think it really needs the discussion. It's hard to be for or against something if it's hard to conceptualize what it is or where we're going with it. And I think that's about what I want to say about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mike also is a senior member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and he serves the city also on the zoning task force. And thank you very much, Mike, for your service.
Good evening.
Wow, walk in right up. Mr. Stewart.
North Main Street.
Yes.
I have to admit, I have not studied this proposal in detail, so I can't say that I oppose it or support it, but I can tell you that there's really not enough information out there. I'd like to have the feedback of a professional planner to let us know what the ramifications of this proposal might be. I'm sure there are consequences to this proposal that we don't know about. And we need to know what those things are in order to make a decision. I can tell you there's a building, not in Laconia, but on Weirs Boulevard, that is a disaster. But I think that building meets this criteria. It's commercial on the first floor. It's residential on the upper floors. But it's a very uncomfortable situation. It's not an attractive building, and I'd hate to see that on this Route 3 corridor. So please get some professional advice, give it to us so that we can take a look at it, we'll study it, and then we can give you our opinion. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, John.
That building you made reference to, is that in Laconia?
It's not, it's in Guilford.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
It's probably right across the street from the Margate, Charlie.
I didn't want to push the issue, I just wanted to know if it was...
I don't want to offend anybody, but that's,
Well,
yes.
the building exists, it's there.
Yeah, it
It's the Pogus Bay Plaza, or they call it 1 Guilford Place. It's where the Globe Department Store used to be, and they added residential above it. Peter Stewart is a renowned architect and a longtime Laconia family. And in fact, he wanders through his park over here often.
Right.
So thank you very much for
Sure.
your testimony,
Thank you.
Peter.
Good evening, I'm Dean Anson. I live on Layton Avenue North in Laconia. And I commented on this when you had the initial opportunity for people to give feedback. I agree with what Mike said. The master plan is not completed yet. The three sections that I understand are outstanding are land use, economics, and zoning. And those three sections are being worked on by, as Mike said, the Lakes Region Planning Commission, and I don't know when they're going to be completed, but I think that the input in those three sections are going to be really important to the decision on this plan.
The timeline that they're working towards, that we liked, was within 6 months.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
as we have done on each chapter of the master plan, there'll be extensive public involvement so that the people of Laconia can react, can study and react and then comment, and then we adjust.
And I think that that would be a perfect opportunity for people to look at this and comment relative to what LRPC has put together for us in those 3 chapters. The things about this proposal that I'm not excited about are the visual aspect of a 100-foot building along this route. I think it would detract from our view of the lake in some areas and of the surrounding wooded areas. So I'm not in favor of 100 feet. I think, as Mike said, these are arbitrary numbers, and I think they could have been, they can be refined, obviously. I don't like the fact that there's no requirement for impervious surfaces. This area, if we get runoff, could go right into the lake. And while this is a community that relies on recreation and people coming to see our beautiful community, if we affect the water quality in a negative way, we are going to lose a lot of opportunities, I believe. To say nothing about the quality of the drinking water that we currently have. So I think that this is going to change the flavor of the city if we had 100-foot buildings. One of the things I don't see in here is any analysis of what the impact would be on the infrastructure. For instance, what's the traffic, what the additional traffic that could be added by these larger buildings? What's the impact going to be on our on sewers, water supply? So I think that if we were to get DPW to take a look at this and give us feedback on what it would actually cost the city in terms of making changes to our infrastructure, that would be a good piece of information to have. So those are my general comments. I'm most concerned about the fact that we haven't gotten the last 3 chapters or the last pieces of information for the master plan, and we're already proceeding with a change in the zoning. So anyway, thank you very much.
Just for your information, Mr. Dean Anson is also the chairman of the City Conservation Commission, and works very closely with recommendations to the planning board as to impacts to our environment. Yes, sir.
Hello. Al Latour from Hackmatack Campground. I was looking at a lot of these things here, and it basically affects my business as being a campground for, like you want to change a lot of these to not permitted. There's a couple in here, and I think it would affect not only my business, but future businesses that would want to go on the weirs, like if someone wanted to put in a daycare as part of their business, including myself. Like, if I had a daycare where parents could drop their kids off so they can go on the mount, now you're saying I can't do it? Or my grandfather, like, 'cause everything here, you have like storage of travel trailers, campers, boats. You should just, instead of residential accessory uses, you should just put up Hackmatack Campground. Because that's
Talking to
everything
the
there.
mic,
I'm sorry.
you up.
Everything there is, it relates to my business.
Okay.
And now you're saying that it can't be done. Am I grandfathered for all this, or?
Relates to what business? I'm sorry, I missed.
Hackmatack Campground.
You have a campground, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's located beside Tamarack.
Yes, I know now, okay. Yep. I didn't know who you,
Yeah.
where you were coming from.
Do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
The residential accessory uses are exactly as it sounds. They're accessory uses to a residence. So you wouldn't be looking at that for other uses with your business. You'd be looking at other parts of the use chart. And if it's a portion of your business that's already existing, it would be considered grandfathered. If it's something new you wanted to do, and the use chart changed it to no or special exception, then you would need to come in for a variance or a special exception.
So if it says no, then I could still come in for a variance.
Yes, that's what no means. Yep, yep.
I know, but I think it's still vague. I think there's a lot of things that should be, discussed on a,
Yeah, she's just merely explaining to you
Item.
or anybody else.
oh, I
what the
understand
rights
that,
are.
but if you, like you're saying it's grandfathered, but, like, could I get that in writing? If you're going to change all this stuff?
Well, that's the other question too, obviously, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to
Very,
point
very
that
good
out.
points.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Clausen, Fred Clausen of Proctor's Cottages, thank you.
Yes.
Business located on Weirs Boulevard, not in the affected area. But first of all, I just wanted to mention, I watched the last meeting, which I was unable to attend on YouTube, and I found it very interesting. I was very impressed with a lot of the comments, passionate about the Weirs. And being in the tourist business, we view the Weirs as a tourist-related city, and everything should be for tourism, not necessarily for industrial. I don't like the 0% green space possibility. We're right on the Weirs Channel, so everything that dumps into the lake dumps through the Weirs Channel, And right now, there's a lot of milfoil there, there's a lot of sand there, there are a lot of issues on the Weirs Channel we're fighting every year. So anything that hurts the, or makes the green space zero would definitely be hurting the Weirs Channel. And I do think it's something that really should go back to the planning board and the master plan rather than being made by the city council. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. Who else would like to talk? Yes, please.
Hello again. Dina Duplack, Tower Street and Endicott Street. I'm a full-time resident. I moved up here 3 years ago. And not only do I live in these homes, but I also rent them. I do vacation rentals, and they've been extremely successful. And we renovated a 100-year-old cottage right on the top of Tower Street. Definitely swing by and check it out. It came out fabulous. My partner, Joe Blood, did all the work there with family and friends helping out, and we've had phenomenal success. And what I'm concerned about is creating what I would call, I used to live in Massachusetts, just over the border, and going on Daniel Webster Highway by the Pheasant Lane Mall, that's what I see happening here if this goes through. The possibility of a Daniel Webster Highway, Pheasant Lane Mall, which I get, my blood pressure goes high sky rocketing when I drive through there. I do it as little as possible, and I came up here to get away from that kind of thing and to enjoy the whole tourism aspect and a more relaxing look and feel. The same with Concord. Was it exit 14? Again, and you know what? None of those are high-rises. None of those buildings, for the most part, are very high, but it's congested. You got McDonald's, Burger Kings, and all that. So what I haven't heard is what can be done, not about, what I've heard is the zoning, the regulations for zoning, but where's the plan? What is the zoning geared towards? How many high-rise buildings and for what purpose? So to me, I'm assuming that's part of the master plan, I'm hoping, and so this should really speak to how it's going to support the master plan. Otherwise, as Alice in Wonderland says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It's actually a Beatles original quote.
Oh, is it? Oh.
It is. I know, I looked it up. It's a Beatles original quote. But it's so true. So where are we going? The zoning is the tactical how. What's the what? I think that's the big question, and I think everyone's that I'm hearing is reiterating the same thing. We need to know the what before we can determine the how. What do we want to do? And it is a tourist area, and I think we should capitalize on the name, the reputation, and building that reputation back up, capitalize on it to bring in absolutely bring in development and business and all that, but that works for tourism. I think that's what Laconia, you can't go anywhere and see the mountains and the water and the skiing and the hiking. It just has it all. And the whole definition of the new resort area is not necessarily an all-encompassing one area that focuses on skiing or that focuses on sailing. The new resorts that are coming in now focus on four-season. How do we make it all happen? And it's rare to have that, and Laconia has that, the ability to do four-season. It just takes some work, some ingenuity, some ideas, thinking out of the box, and it can happen. It really can. I mean, and I'm starting with a small dream. We renovated a 100-year-old cottage that was inhabitable, and it's beautiful now. And again, I encourage people to go online, go to homeaway.com. We're advertised on there. Wonderful reviews, great success, and I think that's what Laconia is all about. That's what the Weirs is all about. And I think you folks, I thank you for all your time and effort. There's a lot that's been going on, a lot that's been done that's great and positive, and I'd like to see it continue. So, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for...
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there anything on this plan you like? Anything? Any of these particular businesses that are restricted now that may not have been restricted? Anything? Just even one thing that you agree with?
That I agree with in terms of...
Can you agree with it? I mean, if they, they've got a number of changes here for usage besides the higher buildings. So is there anything there on that list you agree with, or are you just against everything?
Well, I mean, as far as the specifics, I mean, the height of buildings?
No, besides that. I mean, you mentioned that. I get that.
Right.
But is there anything on this list that you agree with? Anything? They have there's the whole thing, manufacturing housing park, vehicle dealership, sales and service, sexually oriented business. Is there anything on here that you say, you know what, that's a good idea, we shouldn't allow that, or we should allow?
Are those the examples that you just said?
Yeah,
No.
it's on the list here, so.
Right.
Have you seen this list? Have you seen?
Or do you feel as though it's too arbitrary?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a case of, it's a case of too arbitrary. Like, sure, if you want a car dealership, how many? One, and where? Okay, so where's your hub? Where's your hub of Weirs? Is there a hub? Are you going to create a central sort of hub, if you will, that defines Weirs?
So you're saying if they wanted a car dealership, it'd be okay in this zone?
No, not necessarily. No, what I'm saying is where? What is that zone for? What is that zone intended to be?
Are you familiar with this plan? I'm just trying to get clarity here, because it's a public hearing. Are you familiar with this plan as it stands? I mean, have you read this?
Well, just
Went after her credibility, that's wrong.
right.
No, I want to make sure.
That's wrong, Charlie. That's
I'd like you to be respectful.
Oh, no, I just want to make sure.
The woman, you're interrogating her, unfortunately.
I just want to make sure everybody knows what they're, everything that's on here.
She has an opinion, let her have her opinion.
Right. I've actually been to several meetings. I listened to the mayor,
Yeah.
and I thought he was very, very, thorough in his talk and all.
Yeah.
So I've been to several meetings.
Okay.
I don't know the specifics. From what I'm understanding, these are just guidelines. I've heard the guidelines. I've heard the rough direction where we're going in.
I'm just trying to form an opinion. I'm trying to write all this down, and yes, no, on different things. That's all. I'm not interrogating, I'm asking questions, because I don't know.
It
These
just
people are
appeared
going to
that-
disappear.
Maybe you were, but it just appeared that way.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry.
It's hard to conceptualize it, because what you're given is a bunch of charts. So to see how it actually works in a picture format, or
Right.
what some of us would call a plan, is hard to do. And I think to be able to, off the top of her head, be able to say, oh, yeah, no, I
Right.
do like A, B, and C, there's like 14 charts that go to this.
Right,
So
and we've
that's
had
the
some of
hard
that-
thing to conceptualize.
No, and
And
we've
that's why
had
you're
some
not
people say
picking it
that,
apart.
so, yeah.
It's like, where is the research that got you to this set of charts?
Right, and I've not seen, the percentages, if you will, or the how manys of this, and where is this going, and where is that happening? So how can you define your zoning if you haven't put a plan together yet, a master plan that says, we want to cater towards more resort than industry? Okay, so how are you going to do that? Well, we want to have maybe this many types of businesses in this area, and where they're going to be strategically located and all. I mean, this is a very complicated, I'm sure you know, a very complicated and involved process. So I'm just saying, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
That's what I haven't seen yet. I've seen the tactical zoning, but for what? For what purpose? What's the overall purpose of the Weirs? And I think that's what I'm really getting at.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I thank you also for attending the other meetings and learning and sharing. And thank you for renovating that house and starting a very successful e-commerce type business.
These public hearings, by the way, are not to be interrogated. I just want to be clear on that. So I want to encourage more people to come up and speak, say what they feel, think, and you don't have to have all your numbers and your charts and all that to substantiate what you're thinking or you're feeling. So if we can move on from that point, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Wally?
Hi, my name is Steve Wally. I'm a business owner. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a voter. I've lived essentially within a mile of the Weirs ever since 1979.
Why don't you give a shout-out for your business, free advertising? We're on television.
I own HK Power Sports on Union Avenue. My first concern, I have tremendous respect for the mayor, and I think that he deserves a little more consideration than some people are giving him. I think that he's trying to deal with a problem, and anybody that thinks this problem doesn't exist is crazy. You know, I watch the Mount Washington boat go in and out every day. I don't even think it goes out every day, with smaller and smaller crowds. We have less and less tourists come to this area. It's inevitable that things are changing. Maybe the best use for the Weirs is a bunch of luxury townhouses or million-dollar view houses up on the mountain or something like that. But I also feel, as a person who owns some real estate and some property, that having more restrictions on property that people already own is a very difficult thing. It's a very costly thing. It takes away from certain people's rights. It takes away from certain people's pocketbooks. And that should all have fair consideration for anything that we do. I understand the nitty-gritty. Nobody thinks that having 100% lot coverage on every lot in the Weirs is good for anything. Nobody would say that. But if the mayor is trying to give some leeway, maybe we can get that in a different way, maybe with the Board of Variance or something else, to make a hard lot usable. The idea of 100-foot buildings, I'm sure that the reason that that's in there is, wouldn't we all love to have some beautiful hotels in the Weirs?
Casino downstairs, I got you.
But I mean, wouldn't we love to see that? Sure. Is it ever going to happen? Probably not. You know, there's a lot of eyesore stuff in the Weirs that we're all ignoring, and whatever the mayor's trying to do, his interest is trying to improve the Weirs. I definitely don't agree with him. I definitely don't think we need more restrictions on private property. I think people should be able to have residential uses of property within the 400-foot strip that he's talking about. But I think we should be open-minded about if there's relaxing certain requirements would invite some hotel operator or some casino operator or somebody to come here and help our tourist base. That would be great. I do think that we have to be careful, and I don't think that we can legislate the success of commercial business in the Weirs. Things are changing. You know, we don't have that turnover of people that we've had in the past. We're never going to have it. I go to Nothing Fancy at least once a week. It's inevitable that there's no crowd there in the winter. You know, the crowd started falling off 2 weeks ago, and there's basically nobody there during the week. Anybody thinks that we need 5 more restaurants or 5 chain restaurants or, you know, big hotels and big restaurants in the Weirs, that's a long way off. And until other things change in the Weirs, none of this stuff is going to happen. You know, it's nice that the city's spending the money and making the improvements on the Strip that they are. That at least has the possibility of paying off someday. You know, we should all consider the fact that someday probably the Mount Washington won't be running in and out of the Weirs. Maybe the smaller boats will be more practical. Things have to change. If the pier doesn't fall down, maybe somebody can buy that and rebuild that into some fascinating thing that will attract people from far away. It hasn't happened in a long time, and God only knows when it will happen. But I kind of have the feeling that we can fine-tune some things, but I don't think doing what the mayor's trying to do right now is the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Who would like to follow Mr. Wally? Yeah, she's her own person.
I'm Mary Hutchins, and I live in the Weirs, and I gave an emotional comments last time, but this one, I'm trying to be more reasonable, just say, all I hear people saying is, what's going to happen, how is it going to happen, and why is it going to happen? None of those have ever been answered in that proposal. And so to me, the proposal should just be ended at this point. And why? It's just causing irritation by everybody. There's a certain way that you can go about something, and it has methods to do it, and by jumping up like this, it's not working very well. Everybody has too many questions. But I think that the major thing is the water and Winnipesaukee are the greatest assets Laconia has, except for Pumpkin Fest, which was very, very successful and done well. But this was in the Laconia Sun, and it's talking about Meredith. So just up to where the zoning wants to be, and from the that Meredith-Weirs line, it says they had a beautification committee work with businesses, state, and town on Route 3 ledge project. And they worked beautifying the entrance to Meredith and improving the sight lines of the drivers. They're investing their time and equipment to clean up the surfaces. Future steps in the preparation project will be to construct planting beds. Appropriate plants and ground cover will be planned to enhance the area. So that's where I think people should start to think about, is this enhancing going to happen in Laconia when you're strip covering a lot of the areas? It's not going to happen. And that's what's the difference, is there's plenty of room for industrial growth in Laconia. There just hasn't been a big demand for it. Businesses have come in to say, if you want more businesses, this is what you have to do, and you have to educate people to be ready for this, which is high in technology. That hasn't happened yet. We don't have enough people to bring a large number of businesses in. There has to be a larger population. As I mentioned in one article, there are 3 areas that would be prime to have real estate in that overlook the lake. And I sincerely think that this is preventing that from happening. And it's a place that has absolutely gorgeous views of the lake, the mountains, the islands as you look out. So it should be beautifying the entrance into Laconia. It always will have the lake, and that will bring something good. It's a turnover time now, yes. But Warren and I came when the Weirs was so busy on a weekend you couldn't walk down the sidewalks because people came with their families. A lot has changed, but hopefully I've always heard there's only 7 major landowners in the Weirs, and hopefully maybe some of those businesses will turn over and the city council can work with people to change it. The EPA report I keep bringing up, I don't know if anybody's looked back at it. It had a wonderful suggestion. It brought in the EPA, and they talked to all the officials of the town, they talked to residents, and they came up with incredible plans for the 3 major areas of Laconia. And that would be a starting place to what the Weirs should be. But thank you. I totally disagree with this proposal, and I think it'll hurt our area very much. And no, car dealers have already closed that tried to get into that area. So, but it's a ridiculous place. Who wants to drive by that when they're going to the beach? So keep it as thinking of the lake will always bring a lot of money in. And if things like this recommendation happen, it's going to hurt the city tremendously. It's too short-sighted. We need money, and if that's the basics of it, let's find someplace a proposal that will bring money in. I don't see anything saying that we are doing something to help bring commerce in. It's already commercial residential. It should stay that way, and people can do special exceptions if they like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else? Mr. Chris Dupree. Chris's way of introduction is the executive in charge of Southworth Development. They are the owners and developers of Meredith Bay, both on the hill and along Scenic Drive, townhouses facing the water, 19 of them. I think there's only one that isn't sold, or has that one been marketed?
There are several still.
And then on the other side, we've had the pleasure of working with him, and he's put up the first of 4 large buildings, each with 24, 25 condos in those buildings. They are very, very high-end, and each one of them would market somewhere around a $500,000 point. So here, and then in addition to that, on the hill, the Meredith Bay Hill, is where he has close to like 30 properties that have been marketed, if I'm correct, and those are very, very substantial, over $1 million. He also owns 200 acres along Route 3. So we're very happy to have you here, Chris, and we respect the work that you're doing.
Thank you. You know, it's probably a rare occasion when I come to the planning board and don't disagree with something that I'm hearing, but tonight seems to be trending that way, which is, you know, I think is good. I think, you know, listening to everybody's input tonight, having had the opportunity to be here at the last meeting, you know, I don't think that my personal viewpoints on this issue have changed all that much, and I'll reiterate them briefly. But, you know, what I keep hearing from people is there are too many questions about this approach, and though the, you know, the goal and promoting the discussion, I think, is worthwhile, I don't think that saying, you know, we stop the presses on everything that's not consistent with this new vision of the future is the approach that we have to take. You know, it seems that there's a desire for a lot more information. I mirror that opinion, or second that opinion. You know, candidly, I don't know if this would be, you know, as currently discussed, a good measure for the property that we own, or don't, or it wouldn't be a good measure. You know, I really can't tell. When I look at the Weirs and you know, my involvement there over the past decade, it's hard to imagine that there's ever going to be widespread demand for, you know, 90 and 100-foot buildings, as, you know, with commercial on the first floor and residential on, you know, on the floors above. It's, you know, I think the goal or the question more should be, how do we diversify our tax base and promote development which is going to contribute to the tax base and take some of the burden off entirely the residential properties? And, you know, is that to say you can only develop commercial in this corridor? I don't think so. I don't think the history, you know, the recent history of the Weirs supports that either. I mean, you know, just looking at what we've done over the past decade, we've, you know, contributed somewhere between, you know, somewhere on the order of $30 to $40 million in the tax base in the past 10 years. And if this measure went forward, you know, as currently discussed, you know, that would have a significant impact on what we would be able to do.
Meaning positive or negative?
Well, you know, in the short term, I would say it's a negative, because the demand for the commercial market just doesn't seem to be there, whether it's, you know, whether it's tourism-related businesses, or even demand for, you know, kind of ordinary everyday services. When, you know, as I said the last time, you know, when your post office closes during the winter and Dunkin' Donuts goes out and you have your convenience stores and other businesses shutting down, you know, the demand's not there to support them, and not many businesses can survive on 3 or 4 or 5 months a year. You know, and I think that the way to improve that is to increase the demand, and that's through you know, more residential development, you know, along with the tourism-related demand that we can stimulate. You know, I mean, we don't have a, you know, Cumberland Farms is our coffee shop, you know. You know, there's no branch branch bank. There was no drugstore, so, people are going, either direction. And I think with, if we increase the demand and if we can promote, these higher and better uses of the land, that's going to improve the overall tax base. And I think that's really what the goal is, more than saying, we have to have 30 or 35% commercial land, because, I just received our notices from the assessor's office this week, and every piece of commercial property that we own declined in value from 2015 to 2016. Our assessed value has gone down. We didn't get that notice on any of our residential property.
Chris, I just have a question. The last time you spoke here, I think it was last month, I asked you the question, do you have commercial properties outside the entrance to your main development? Did I understand that correctly?
We do. We've got about 60 acres along the corridor.
Right. And I asked you very specifically why you had not developed those yet. I was wondering if you could give me your answer again.
There's no demand at present.
So the people have to be there before the businesses will show up?
I think so.
Do you have any properties in other waterfront communities where demand has come in there? Because I think there's a relationship, too, of the greater Laconia area that's not discussed, linking both of these areas?
Not at present. I mean, and it's all been resort-oriented development in the Caribbean primarily. So those, and those have been larger properties on a scale where they become really self-contained resorts, where you're talking, hundreds of hotel rooms and thousands of residential units, so they create their own demand. So I think that's really about what I have to say. It's, I see it more of a how do we promote versus how do we say you can't do this or you can't do that. And, I'm not sure any of us can anticipate the full impact of saying you can't do this or you can't do that today. And it's, I look at things based on what the market supports.
Excellent.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A lot of people out there. A lot of opinions in the city. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Thurston. Jeff Thurston is one of the co-owners of Thurston Marine, located right there in
a town called Weirs Beach.
In the Weirs Beach. The town of Weirs Beach? No.
This precinct of Weirs. Jeff Thurston, as you mentioned, and I am a resident of Guilford, but been a business owner and operator in the Weirs for over 44 years. Very proud of the fact that we're associated with a town called Weirs Beach. I'm a bit of a history buff and can tell you that there was many, many hundreds of years in which it was simply known as the Weirs. A very odd thing for somebody to try and be attracted to. If you're picking a place to go on your vacation with your family, I'm not sure the Weirs would sound like the most attractive facilities. In the late 50s, it was changed to Weirs Beach because clearly it was a resort area. It deserved to be a resort area. And a beach was built, and is a beach. There was no beach in Weirs, not a speck of sand, hard shoreline, but they built that beach, maintained it. It's there today. We're proud of it. It's the best beach on the lake, probably one of the best beaches in the state. With that said, it's a landmark. I travel, have the good fortune at this time of year to start traveling. Been to all parts of the country and have found myself mentioning where we're located, and people go, oh, Weirs Beach. It's known. Laconia is known for the similar reasons. Bike Week being a big factor in that. There are motorcycle riders from all over who know Laconia, who know Weirs Beach. There's a spirit that needs to be maintained in the Weirs, which is a resort-oriented spirit. We have to think like Kearney people. We have to have people who come and go, who are strangers to our door, but welcome because they bring money. And we have to have the facilities that encourage them to come here, make them want to come here. The town of Meredith, to me, is an outstanding example of the devastation of a small community when asbestos was suddenly decided to be toxic. Can't do this anymore. What was their major industry? Making asbestos fabric. The town of Meredith died, virtually. But look at it now. And it's resort-driven. It's tourist-driven. And they're fortunate. They're actually drawing dollars from, I would say, a good portion of the year. Not just summer dollars. Certainly there's a ebb and a flow, but the fact is it's a dynamic community, small as it might be, on the same highway we're located at, with, in my humble opinion, less to offer. So what I'm hoping for in the planning, what I'm hoping for in the thoughtfulness of this committee and the residents, is a plan that has that dynamic in its mind when it comes forward. Weirs Beach is a dynamic area. Laconia is lucky to have it. And similarly, Weirs Beach is lucky to have Laconia and Lakeport. But we work together as siblings. And in this particular case, the Weirs end of it can be a cash cow for the city of Laconia if it's done diligently. My favorite peeve was for many, many years we could not get Weirs Boulevard paved. The popular saying was that the last coat of blacktop that Weirs Boulevard had was when President Eisenhower toured on his election campaign to be president in the 50s. And we finally got a coating of blacktop, quite a number of years ago. And I drive that road every day, 44 years, back and forth, and I will tell you, it's a horrible way to tell a stranger who's arriving in our area, welcome to the Weirs. It looks awful, and the city can't see it or chooses to ignore it. But that's part of our front door. That's our welcome. That's what we look like to the person who's arriving here for the first time, or the person who's been here and is really starting to notice how shabby portions of it is. And it can't be done by the businesses in the Weirs. It has to be done by the city that manages the tax dollars that they derive from the Weirs. So if we're looking to develop something, let's take care of what we have right now. Make it as good as it can be and as good as it deserves to be. You're spending big dollars in the Weirs right now downtown to improve it. Thank you. This is wonderful. I congratulate the city for that. I think it's a step forward. But there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to make this the place that would attract residential, commercial, but more importantly, tourist dollars. Lowest maintenance, best return dollars that this city could possibly have is to keep that tourist coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Good evening. My name's Porky. I live on Tower Street also. I just recently started getting involved with the Weirs Action Committee, and when I think about from a micro standpoint, they work with $25,000 a year, and they seem to do some good things down there with the fireworks and even putting flowers out or whatever to try to beautify it. And then I jump to the big picture, and I get confused. They seem to have, obviously a finite amount of money, but they seem to have some decent goals to do something good for that particular area. And then I look at the big picture, and I get confused, as to what, again, I'm probably repetitive here with some of the other comments with some of the other members of the public here, but the big picture is lost on me because I am stuck on what Chris said about demand, that in previous sessions here, others have made comments that the population is, not increasing over the last 10 years and development, and you run from the rotary, the roundabout back to White Plains, and everybody knows all the signs that are up there. So I'm just not totally convinced that, I understand it's noble and it's probably has some value, but changing the zoning doesn't fix anything. You know what I'm saying? To me, anyways, it doesn't fix anything. If you don't have the population, and you're going to limit the population in that area by, not allowing certain residential development or whatever. I'm just wondering if we're the cart's before the horse here, so to speak. So I'm concerned about the big picture, and as relates to the ultimate goal here, and again, I'm stuck on, I think you need residents, I think you need people in order to bring in developers to spend their money. And I'm certainly, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm a taxpayer who loves the area now and been up here for 15 or 16 years, and would love to see things change and become a year-round destination. So I know you guys put a lot of time in, and I want to thank everybody for all their time and effort that they're going to put in the future, too. So, thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments a lot. Would anyone else like to address the planning board on this subject? Have to always be careful, because if you open the door too wide, they start talking about weird things. Okay. Well, then, I will close the public hearing at 7:27. And I would really like to thank the very, very large number of people that have showed out, not just tonight, but at our planning board meeting on October the 4th and at the ZTF. Other than for the WOW Trail, this has been the largest number of people that we have had expressing their views. There were 9 at the ZTF, 9 at the planning board, and tonight we had 11. And I thank you very, very much for that. I also, Councilor Doyle could not be here this evening, but at our meeting on October the 4th, she was very eloquent in not being in favor of this plan. She not only represents Ward 1, but she lives there, and she works there. The Sun Valley Cottages right across the street from the Tamarack, and she and her husband have a major, major investment in the tourism industry there. I want to thank David Bounds, who's not with us here tonight, at the council meeting where they forwarded this to us. He did not vote to forward this to us. His phrase, which is so true, I need more information. So I thank both councilors. In reviewing my notes of the speakers, there has been an overwhelming rejection of this plan. After a lot of research, interviews, and input from stakeholders in Laconia, I agree with the rejection of this plan. Now, planning board members under state law cannot formulate and harden their opinions until after public hearings. So one of the issues raised about why haven't we been more vocal, why haven't the planning board members written letters to the editor and things like that, that's not the structure. We are to keep an open mind because we learn every time there is a public hearing. But I think that overwhelmingly, the people of the city and my personal views are is this plan is not ready for prime time. The core principle, I'd like to go over some of the reasons for this so that you don't think that I'm just throwing a dart here. The core principles that were presented, in my mind, are not substantiated and they're not valid. The details of the new zone are destructive for the whole city, not just for our resort area and our prime asset, Lake Winnipesaukee. That is the prime asset of this city. It differentiates us from any other city. First, the goal of that we should have a commercial tax base of 35%. That's meaning that when you take the total evaluation of the city, 35% should be commercial and 65% should be residential. The mayor presented that this number was attributed to our city manager, Mr. Scott Meyer. I admire Scott Myers tremendously and absolutely agree with the assessment of the city council that he is an outstanding city manager. That man has more in his head than you can believe. I don't see how he keeps it there. He's just, and not only the detail-oriented, he is strategically oriented and understanding that we have had 50 years of negative population growth and that we need to grow our population base. for every reason going, and not just the tax contribution that people have, but we need more people to repopulate our school boards, our planning boards, our council. We need people to become more involved in the community, middle-income people and higher-income people. So, when I asked him, where did you come up with this 35%? He felt that it was a desirable ratio. Now, he has been involved in Dover. He was the mayor of Dover. And that may be true in that part of the world. But in our part of the world, it's in my opinion, really not attainable. Laconia right now, and in our new master plan, the economic development section, which I passed it at our last meeting here, the planning board meeting, Laconia does have a 15.82 commercial share evaluation. When this chart shows a comparison of property tax bases for comparable type communities, so it's looking at, like Meredith has an 8.34% commercial. We're significantly above that. Guilford has a 10.6. Keene, way over there in the other part of the state, where they have a university and they're kind of alone over there, has a 35% commercial tax base. Belknap County as a whole has an 11.32, Merrimack County a 20, Rockingham County a 17, Hillsborough County a 22. There was one here, Lebanon. Lebanon has a 40% commercial tax. I had the opportunity at a all-day Saturday training program put on by the New Hampshire Mutual Association. The zoning administrator for Lebanon was there, and I went up to him and I said, how the devil do you guys do that? What's going on? 40%, that's huge. And he said, well, it's really due to, we have two major highways intersecting. We have 91 and 89 right there coming into it. We have a commercial airport that has daily commercial multiple flights into Boston, into New York. We have Dartmouth-Hitchcock, which has a tremendous support base surrounding it. Hotels, restaurants, all types of suppliers in there. And just in the next town is Dartmouth College itself. Wow, that's fantastic. So in looking over this chart and in looking over, is that an attainable objective? Also, I've asked this board to, as they drive through Laconia, Court Street, Union Ave, not just downtown, but all the way to the Weirs, and from the Weirs up to Meredith. Mr. Dupree earlier had said that there are 10 properties now, commercial properties for sale between Meredith and the Weirs. There's restaurant after restaurant, there's stores, there's property. As you drive down Union Avenue, it's for lease, for sale, for lease, for sale. So the issue is not, can we get from 16 to 35? The issue is our 16 is extremely fragile. The actual number of revenue-producing commercial property, I'm not exactly sure where it is, and I really don't want to venture a guess. I think it would be a disservice. I know that it's below 16. Is it 12? Is it 10? But the new master plan addresses that issue and comes up with action steps about how we as a city can help those landlords market their property. So, let me see now. In addition to our excess supply of commercial property, just drive in from exit 20 and look to the left and look to the right. Look at the Belknap Mall. Look at the Wilcom building across the street. You drive in from Guilford. The Guilford movie theater property is Airport Commons. Not only have they renovated the movie theater, and it's very nice inside. The seats are very comfortable. There's 5 very large retail building spaces that group is going to be actively marketing. Coming into Laconia, the Walmart, up in the Walmart where the Hannaford used to be, it was divided into 3 positions. Only one of them is rented. 2 others are available. Across the street by Hannaford's, there is another space available. Beside it, there was a used car dealer that bought, stocked, didn't sell, closed it down, and it's back on the market. My point being that if any retailer wanted to start a business in this city, there's certainly space available. The other issue is that with this tremendous oversupply, a building owner has a very difficult time putting an investment into his building, bringing it up, because the supply and demand determines price, and the price for rental is low. And as you invest in your building, it's extremely risky. You're not going to get your money in higher rents because there's too many other opportunities for commercial operators to lease. The other premise that this plan states, which I feel is invalid, is that as you look at the total city of Laconia, the only open space is in the Weirs. So therefore, we should regulate it. The reason that there is open space in the Weirs is because commercial operators don't want to locate there. The comments have been here on customer count, on the number of people. Now, I would like to say that as we listen to testimony and as you listen to presentations from anybody, you always have to determine, does that person know what the devil he's talking about? What's his background? What's the experience? And I would like to just quickly say that I was a senior officer in the Ground Round Restaurant Corporation for over 20 years. We had 200 restaurants in 20-some-odd states. The decision about where to put a restaurant is a very critical decision. And it always comes down to certain basics. One of the basics is customer count around the site. Now, as you've heard, in the Weirs, the reason Ward 1 is so darn large and compared to the other wards is there's no people. And wards in the city have to be divided up pretty darn equally, taking the total count of the city and dividing them by 6, and that's how you get the geographic areas. We don't have the people there. And so that's the first criteria that any business inciting a bricks and mortar establishment has is, are there people there? The second criteria is traffic count by the site. Are there cars going by it? Can you capture? On this first point, the customer count, in the Ground Round, we had, our criteria was that we needed 50,000 people living within a 5-mile radius. 50,000. Good God. You know, that's why you don't see chain restaurants up this far. And that's why the restaurant, Applebee's at Exit 20, is because they do have a traffic count coming by that location. And they do a very good job there. I doubt very much as if any chain restaurant will come up here. There just aren't enough people. The third criteria that you use is a competitive situation. Who is selling that you would be competing with? And in Laconia, we have just opened, and believe it or not, most of it is in Laconia. It's a super Walmart. It's kind of neat in that we capture the city line goes sort of right through that building, and the new part is in Laconia. So I kid with friends in Guilford. They get the parking lot, we get the revenue from the new part of Super Walmart. But here we have a Super Walmart. Across the street we have a Lowe's, drugstores. I call them drugstores. It's my age showing, I guess. There are 5 of them. They're massive convenience stores now. Grocery stores. We also have 5 major grocery stores within striking distance of the people in Laconia. And on Cumberland Farms, the only place in the Weirs to get coffee in the winter, and there's another one downtown. These are not just gas stations, they're major convenience stores. So that is what on the bricks and mortar side. The other major factor that's affecting retailing in this country and around the world is e-commerce, the Amazon effect. We are very fortunate in Laconia, in the Lakes region, to have a major Federal Express hub. We have a very large UPS hub over in the industrial park, and we have 3 post offices. Now, this got brought home to me because I'm geez, I need it, where can I go get it? And I needed a sandpaper belt. And I went to 5 stores in this area, primarily in Laconia. Went to Lowe's, they had a fine and a medium. I needed a coarse. I went up online, Grainger, pricing was fine, and they said I would have it the next day. I couldn't believe it. The next day it was there. I needed something else a little later on. I did the same thing. I got it the next day. So we have a phenomenal asset here, is that we are very, very well covered and positioned for e-commerce. What does that do to people that want to open bricks and mortar stores? Man, they have to think very carefully. And as you all are reading, the number of stores that are cutting back, closing, consolidating, Target's getting smaller, Walmart's getting smaller. The world is moving to e-commerce. And that's another reason why to invest in a brick and mortar operation is very difficult. So that's the competitive. Traffic count, customer count, competitive situation, and then the cost of brick and mortar. Retail stores, the labor, healthcare, retirement, energy, property taxes, advertising, discounts, state business taxes. It is very expensive to operate a business. That's one of the criteria also. So in looking at Route 3, is that a place that, under this proposed plan, that it would encourage? I say no. Those businesses can do then what they can do now. What we need to do, and the master plan is addressing that, is help our current taxpayers market their properties. So, let's see, I wrote these things down, so trying not to double up here. I absolutely agree with the multiple comments that are made here, is that people come first. They are the customers, then businesses follow. If you have people, if you have a demand, businesses will follow. When Mr. Dupree is talking about his development, the 30 properties on Meredith Bay Hill, the condos, the townhouses, those people, as they can afford those properties, also come into our cities, looking, geez, I want to go out to dinner. I want to do this, I want to do that. That's then when business entrepreneurs say, okay, now I've got customers, I will do something. So it's people first. It's not business first. Just briefly, I'm almost on my tirade here. Details of the plan. Green space isn't an arbitrary number. Green space is critical. Think of it as a sponge. And this dirty water coming down, or the water that's washed, it goes down into the ground, and through nature, it cleans the water before it enters the aquifer. This proposal, and Councilor Bounds talked at the zoning task force meeting, he said, imagine standing at the weirs looking up to Meredith, and you have a football field on the left and a football field on the right, and it's like a runway coming down into the Weirs Channel. Now, all the stormwater in that watershed ends up in the Weirs Channel. There's 2 systems underground. One is the sanitary system that runs all the way down to Franklin. The other is the stormwater system. The great blowout of the boardwalk here a few years ago was because of stormwater coming down over hard surfaces. But when you think of, and there's been talk here about the prime asset and the quality and the cleanness of Winnipesaukee, is critical that we manage that, and that we do not pump into Weirs Channel dirty water. Weirs Channel goes into Paugus Bay. Paugus Bay is our city water supply. The people in Briarcrest turn on their tap, they're going to be affected by the quality of the water. Southdown and Long Bay are communities that are extremely attractive, and from just the tax base purpose, I've heard many times that they contribute over 20% of the tax revenue for the city. Do you think those property values will be maintained if Paugus Bay deteriorates in cleanness and quality? I don't think so. as you drive along the Weirs Boulevard, will they, all those properties, will these townhouses that have just been put up at Christmas Island Steakhouse there, which is selling for in the 700,000s, do you think that those things will retain their value? When the value of property that's surrounding Pogus Bay decreases, that tax burden has to be picked up by the other people in the city. So this proposal, you may say, oh, you're going too crazy, it's way out. You have to read it literally, and this is the effect that it could have. So does this proposal, is it just the Weirs way out there, who cares, they're way down there? No, it affects the entire city. Southworth Development, he spoke, he's a major development in the city, and the reason he's there is because of Lake Winnipesaukee. It's the lake, it's the lake. So the commercial users are not opening now along Route 3. There's nothing to encourage them to do so until we have more people. Our growth and development is residential, then commercial will follow. Given all that, the chairman of the planning board, by state law, has the responsibility to vote and also the opportunity to make motions. This is different than the city council. So therefore, I move that we reply to the city council as required by our city charter. With that, we do not recommend adoption of this plan.
I'll second that. Are we open for discussion?
After, now,
second.
the motion has been made, the motion has been seconded, now it's open for discussion,
Are
but
we still in
again,
the public hearing?
no, we're not. We had closed the public hearing. This discussion is just among the planning board members. The public certainly can listen to the discussion.
You know, I have to agree with Mr. Thurston. I had the occasion to be looking for an apartment for my daughter throughout Laconia, and I wasn't going to use a realtor, I was going to do it myself. And I looked at many of the places that were for rent, and I was appalled. I was appalled because of the condition. And I came before the city council probably the week after, asking about the code enforcement efforts. And basically, I didn't get much of an answer, but what I did come to realize in speaking with the staff is we don't have the staff to enforce some of the maintenance codes that we have in effect, and we've had in effect for many, many years. And what happens is the properties go unmaintained, and the quality goes down, and it attracts an undesirable tenant base. Well, I think the same thing is happening to the Weirs. If you look at the properties, I'm not sure we're enforcing the codes that we went to so much trouble to adopt. We got to fix what we have before we start changing what we have. So as a result of that, this is putting the cart before the horse. The Weirs has a panache, an atmosphere that people seek out, but we have to maintain it. If you look at the properties that are being renovated in Meredith, now, we're not Meredith, I got that, but people are putting money into those properties. They're renovating these old buildings that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, were pretty rough shape. We have the same opportunity, but we've got to hold people to account. If they want to run businesses, they have to maintain their properties at some minimum level. That means that the city has to invest in code enforcement, and we have not done that. Now, you can say, well, we don't have the budget. Well, it's kind of like, I'm not even sure what it's like. It's like saying that you won't invest in a car to keep it running. So you go out and you buy a new car. Well, the car is certainly capable of being maintained and running for many, many, many years, but you don't want to put the money into it. Got to invest. So for that reason, I can't support this change in zoning, this proposal, because it hasn't been done in a timely fashion, in a thoughtful fashion. It's being done in advance of our master plan, and it doesn't make any sense to me, so.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, then
I have a few comments. And the comments that I'm going to go back over are the ones that the general public has inferenced. I was on the fast track program that the mayor wanted a few months ago. And my feeling on that was, let's get the ball rolling economically in the city, let's make it happen, yada, yada, yada. But as I watch the broadcast on television, I was overseas looking at it back in October, and I didn't know what we were talking about. It seemed too arbitrary. It seemed like, you'll know what Medicare is going to give you, or the health care program is going to give you after we vote on it, kind of an approach. And that was my feeling. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it objectively that way, but that was my feeling. Well, this is too nebulous. And this board works, and so everybody's clear on this, we work on facts. We work on something that we can put an imprint on and say, okay, this is absolute by and large, and we work on that knowledge. And it goes to our planning directors, it goes to our technical people, all through the system. But it's something that's concrete in nature, that when a developer comes to us, a lot of that's been done. A lot of that's been totally aware of. We're totally aware of it. But make a long story short, I don't see that with this proposal. I don't think it's a proposal that we can move forward with from that point of view. So again, it's arbitrary, not enough info, to say the least. I believe it restricts development. Right now, I see people, if they want to put an apartment house in, or development of units, and/or commercial, they can do that. Now, what it does, it says you have to have the first 20 feet commercial. That doesn't make sense to me, because why are we telling someone what they should do? If someone wants to take a risk, if someone want to put a high-end something up in the Weirs, and they come with a proposal, and they demonstrate that they have the ability to put commercial on the first floor, and they're going to put apartments, a combination of apartments and hotel on the second floor. If they come in and they show that, and they demonstrate that, well, that developer is going to come across with the goods, because he's not going to put that money out there and risk it and be a failure, that's for sure. So we would have to listen to him. And if he needed some variance and something like that, and this board has always been good on looking in a positive way to give someone an edge or a variance, et cetera. So I see that happening right down the line. But right now, we don't have no need for change right now, until we have the tail wagging the dog. We constantly, we want to get to the end point, but we have to have certain things. We have to have people in the area. We have to have people going to restaurants. We have to have people utilizing the services that are here, and we need the numbers. What are we, 17,000 in the wintertime? I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're not even half a town in most communities. I mean, we're not that many here. So we need people coming in. We should be fostering the idea of maybe high rises, maybe, multiple units, maybe 60 feet, whatever we can do now. Let's get that going. Right? And then we can go forward with the commercial component to it, because we want to make sure these people are supported. They have the ability to come here, get things they're accustomed to, whether it be restaurants or whether it be, clothing stores, baby stores, whatever it may be. But we get the cart before the horse. The tail's wagging the dog in this case. And I think the thoughts are very good. If we had a population that was 60,000 people, then I say, well, a lot of what's being said has a lot of merit, but we're not even close to that at this point in time. And unfortunately, the ratios on 35% and the tax base and all that, it's a wash. You tax at the same rate for residential as you are commercial. So what's the gain? There's no gain there. There's no immediate need to do something like this until we have some growth. Again, the tail wagging the dog is really what I see happening here, and we have to get more behind us. We have to have more people here. We have to have more residential units sold, because that's people's money. And you talked about how we should foster certain things. My situation, and it's always an issue, how do we get economic growth in the area? Well, one thing is, let's allocate $20,000, $30,000 for advertising. And let's advertise New York, let's advertise Boston, let's get an interest. Let's people, when they're watching television, they say, and they're in Alabama, they say, hey, I've been to the Weirs. Did you know Weirs Beach? And it's on television, okay? That's the kind of momentum, that's the kind of pollination people have with other people, because they see something, they see it on television, they start talking about it, and guess what? You have more of a theme. I don't feel as though, and I'll be critical of the state, we don't have, this is one of the big assets that this community has, is where we are right now. And we should be fostering people from overseas. We should be getting them here. I mean, we had some leg up. We had with the Prime Minister of France here, President of France, and we've had this person, that person. Well, let's make some hay in that. And we should be advertising overseas. There's many ways to get an interest in the area, and I believe we're not doing it, whether it be at the state level or the local level. And advertising does not cost that much. I mean, you go to your local newspaper, you go to your local radio station, and you say, hey, we're the city, we'd like you to help us, so if you get $10,000 for that, will you do it for $2,500? And I bet you dollars to donuts they would go along with it. I want to get off my soapbox right now, but I get more pumped up about the economic component to this, and this here is a deterrent, that's for sure. Yep.
We are advertising, and it's what's on the front page of our papers every day. And someone mentioned here, until other things change, and until we can actually articulate and not be afraid to talk about those other things and to fix them, this is a Hail Mary. You're like, because it's restrictive, and it doesn't, the demand's not there for the less restriction. You're not going to get it with this. So it's missing a community component. Until you address those other issues, like why I don't take my kids to public library anymore, this is a place you want to drive through, not drive and park. And we don't want to articulate what those problems are or devote the money to enforcing the code and the current laws we have. And if we don't, things like this are not going to happen in the main city.
Thank you. Any other, yes?
Thank you. I was very persuaded by your arguments, and surprisingly so, and I agree with you. However, I would like to make a move for an amendment to the proposal. By substituting the table of permitted uses to the CR zone as contained in the packet before you, you've all received it from David Bounds, before you, in place of the present CR zone proposal now before us. It seems that perhaps and there originally, I believe your board presented 10 of these permitted uses to the council. We did not take any action on those at the time. There have been 4 more added, so there's a list of 4 permitted uses which in some way might help some of the problems that we're facing without going into the rest of the CR zone plan.
Well, I'll give you some feedback on what you just said. This came about last Friday afternoon. This was put on the agenda. And I don't think it's fair to anyone on this board to receive something hours before we have a meeting without understanding what the look at it comprehensively and digesting that. And I mentioned that earlier, 2 or 3 times over the weekend and even on yesterday in regards to that issue I have. There's no problem changing the agenda, but I think when you're dealing with issues like these issues are, I think this board should be well educated on that, have a better understanding of what they're voting on, and be able to digest that with an adequate amount of time. And I don't think there was an adequate amount of time for that when it came forward. That's my opinion.
I would like to comment also that this request to review the table of uses in the CR zone is a good one, but that it should not be linked with this motion. I mean, under new business, we can bring that up. We can say, great, because I was reviewing it, and there's a great deal of clarity that needs to be made between these technical terms. Manufactured housing, what are we talking about? Briarcrest is an outstanding community and a big addition to the city. They were pre-manufactured. Now, does that mean we won't allow Briarcrest? So my point being that the table of uses, the review of the table of uses is a good thing. I believe that we should bring it up under new business as a separate item, refer to the zoning task force, have that group research it, come back to us and say, yep, this is what we think. Because they also, as we have learned through these multiple public hearings, there may be other changes that we want to make. So
That's needed, yeah.
Yeah, that's
That are
needed,
needed.
and I have no conflict with that whatsoever. I do not, though, feel that it should be linked to this proposal, that I have made a motion that we do not recommend. That will clear it, that clears the potential for development back again. It clears it in the mind of the property owners and potential uses for
So you're
down.
not changing your motion? Is that what
No,
you said?
no, I am not.
I'll withdraw my motion and bring it up under new business.
Yes.
That would be excellent. And it's a good one. And so I think we can discuss it at that time. So then, just to reiterate, I move that we reply to the city, Charlie, I didn't see you, I'm sorry.
All right, I didn't say anything, thank you. I tried to do, because I really wanted to hear everybody, because I saw a lot of stuff on here I didn't agree with, and I saw some things I did agree with. And I kind of did a little count here, and by my count, there were 6 people definitely against it, nobody was in for it like it is, and then I may be off by 1. It was either 3 or 4 people, sounded like they wanted more study put into this. In other words, they weren't saying this is a terrible idea, but they were saying, well, where's this and where's this? And that's why I tried to interrogate somebody to make sure I had them right on my list here, yes or no, or more study. I hope you weren't offended by me asking you that.
Absolutely not.
Okay, I wanted to be sure about that.
I love a good challenge.
Jeez, I hope that wasn't a challenge, kid. So, this reminds me a little bit of when the whole idea came up with making Weirs Boulevard residential, except for grandfathered people, from south of the Nazwa down to Lake Street, maybe beyond. This reminds me very much of that. And the planning board, at the time, the current members, were all in favor of that, and you saw the backlash from residents of Weirs Boulevard, business owners mainly.
Yes.
So this kind of reminds me of that a little bit. And there's no disrespect here, Mr. Chair, but when you said at the beginning of your speech, you said, you know, it's our job, and I agree, to come here with an open mind, listen to everybody. And I really, I mean, when we voted on this before, I said, I get it, it's pretty black and white what this thing is, but I think you had your mind made up that night, and I think that, you know, by your actions, talking to the Weirs Action Committee or other people, you've been very, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
That's an assumption on your part, Charlie.
No, well, it may well be, but I'm just covering it. So I just want to be clear about that. I don't think it's such a bad idea that we do keep talking about this. Obviously, there are some people that think there are a few good ideas on here, and I think we should maybe not just kill this thing, but take the good out, get rid of the bad. I agree with the green space, that we should have green space, because you're absolutely right, Warren, that we don't want sludge going down the street. That's common sense. I mean, it's...
In some ways, I agree with you, Charlie. I mean, I don't want to get into an argument.
Let me just finish. And I think the odds of somebody wanting to build a 100-foot building up there, certainly not in my lifetime. But I'm not sure about this, which comes first, the jobs or the residents? I don't get which comes first. Do people move to Laconia with no jobs? Or do people open up businesses because there are people living here? And certainly, when we look at the type of buildings, in my opinion, that have been put up around Laconia recently, I'm not so sure that, you know, that we're looking at a good job population for businesses to draw off. I've got a business too, and I got to tell you something, it's not easy to find qualified help. I don't know whether to give them a drug test first, see if they can understand just communicating with people, never mind all the other stuff that goes with it. There's definitely a labor shortage in this area of qualified people. So, I mean, I actually look for high school students coming, and I figure I got a better chance. So I'm just saying, I'm not so sure that this is something that, it's no good, get rid of it. I think there's some good ideas on here, and that's why, certainly the crowd here tonight is saying, no, for a lot of good reasons, but I'm not so sure with what the city council has said and what some of us have said, that why it has to be just wiped off the slate.
What I disagree with, okay, and I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you from this perspective, that there's good and bad with this whole issue, and I agree with that full-heartedly. But if a developer came to us and he said, I'm going to put in this building, and we say, what's the foundation look like? And he says, I don't know what I'm going to use, concrete, I'm going to use brick, I don't know what I'm going to use, and we would say to him, go back. We would reject him. We wouldn't give him a qualification on that, because that's his proposal. And we're looking at someone's proposal, whether it be this proposal or anybody else's proposal, we're taking that as their proposal. And not our job to manage that. Our job is to see what we got, the facts that we get, and agree or disagree with those facts, and not manage those facts. And that's where I want to let you to know.
Okay, but doesn't this, on some of these things, absolutely say, you know what, we're not going to have any more trailer courts on US 3 between Weirs Beach and the Merritt?
Yeah, but the guy says, I'm going to use good quality plumbing. Well, you still reject the project, right? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think, if I could, the one great thing about having public meetings and the discussion, and then on YouTube, is that good ideas don't disappear, and the process that we are in here on the master plan, land usage, and the other things, Charlie, that the good ideas can be incorporated and should be incorporated in, because there's always good ideas in.
And this might come out of what this proposal is going to be.
Yes.
I don't think this was sold in light of all the planning that the city's already done. It was just kind of put in under the radar. So most of the things in here, if we went individually through each one, you'd probably see consensus, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea, that's a good idea. But the picture was not created. I have a hard time seeing that. I see a blue stripe. I see the words arbitrary, and we don't see a vision that many people have put into creating a master plan and charrettes and all the community involvement that went into that. I've went to a couple of community things. I'm like, man, they're really asking all these questions. None of that was done on this. So no one can actually see how these pieces come together. It's like a chart was sent over here, and then they were like, well, we could change a few letters on that chart. Nobody gets that. And I think if you sold it and people understood it, and it was part of a plan, and you could say this is part of changing the economic structure, creating more economic diversity, like what are the goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Is this a Hail Mary? Is this arbitrary? If it really is, then we really should go back and say, get a vision and bring it back and pitch it as part of that plan. And that's it. That's why no one here was like, yeah, we can support it. They can't even articulate it. They don't even know what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the purpose of the public involvement through the master plan process, too. And we could be criticized, why has it taken so long to do this master plan? Well, it's normal for communities to take several years in doing a master plan. It's only updated every 10 years. And we employ consultants, we employ technical experts, and they bring it back. We have the public hearings. And I will say that during this period of time also, and I'd like to give a real shout out to Brandy Laughlin and Kalina Graham, during this period of time, we have 4 professional positions in the planning department: the director, the assistant director, conservation, and zoning. 3 of these 4 left city employment. So it was Brandy, who has been with us a short period of time, but she's absolutely amazing as to what she's assimilated, and Kalina. And our attention was focused on applicants. We want to service applicants. And so has there been a little delay in finalizing the master plan? Yup. But in terms of what's more important, servicing your customers, and Scott Myers is a big driver of that customer service, that's where the attention was. And as we've come into this meeting, we've been executing, and is that a good word? I don't know. We've been accomplishing.
I think we're off topic here. I think we're just stay on the topic and...
Yeah, but that,
and
yes.
we should call the vote and be done with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but that's why the master plan hasn't been done, and people could get frustrated. But it's on track now to get done. So given that guidance, I would like, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I would like to call the question. And the question is I move that we reply to the city council as required by our city charter with that we do not recommend adoption of this plan. All those in favor, raise their right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against?
None.
Any abstentions? None. The motion passes unanimously. We will reply to the city council that we do not recommend adoption of this plan. Thank you very much. Moving, because it's the same subject, really, and we'd like to move into new business. Now, Counselor, would you like to?
Yes. In your packets, as I said, you did receive a proposal by Councilor Bounds listing 16 uses.
Yeah, changes to the table of uses.
Changes to the table of uses. I move to amend and substitute, or rather initiate perhaps a public hearing at the next meeting so that you will have time to look at these changes because you haven't had enough time at this point. And
Could I suggest a guidance here? That our normal procedure is before a public hearing, we have a locked document. And that what I would like to recommend is that we forward this suggested changes of table use to the zoning task force. They will review it and come back to the planning board with their recommendations. The planning board at that time either accepts, rejects, or changes. Then we have a clear document to communicate to the public, and at that point, we hold the public hearing. There's a lot of words. I'm using a lot of words tonight, I'm sorry.
So if I understand, just for clarification, the recommendations from Councilman Bounds was the right-hand column, correct? Or that was what was proposed in the last zoning change that was ultimately rejected?
no, we didn't reject it, we didn't take action.
They didn't take action on it. I'm so caught up in another part of that proposal that no action was taken.
No action was taken.
So
now he's added an additional 4 changes.
Oh, I see what he did.
So there's a total of 16.
So, pardon my ignorance, what's C represent now, what does that mean?
Conditional use permit.
Conditional, okay.
So what would happen then if we were to adopt or recommend these changes? They would become part of the next attempt to get that commercial resort zone?
No, it stands on its own. That's history.
Yeah.
This is a review of the table of uses for the commercial resort zone.
As it currently exists?
As it currently exists, yeah, the entire zone.
May I ask a question on
Sure.
just on this? Why are we recommending an amendment to something we just voted not to
No,
adopt?
It's not an amendment
we
now,
cleared that
it's
up.
a
So you're
This is
basically
a
saying
brand-new
we're
proposal.
going to do the same process we did from the last meeting. We're starting over and looking at this as a completely new proposal with these changes in it.
Yes.
Going to the zoning task force, evidently.
But,
Why would you do that?
well, Michael, because this committee
process.
has held discussions and public hearing on most of these changes, and we did, by vote of the planning board, recommend to the city council that they be changed. During the public hearing process at the city council, this part was never considered by them. It was purely focused on other changes that we wanted to have made on Weirs Boulevard. So the majority of these changes have been through this whole process, but Councilor Bounds is adding new ones, and in light of the discussions that we've had in the public hearings that we've had, it's a good deal to say back to the zoning task force, hey, look at these things and come back to us.
I am okay with that, but I'm thinking are these changes material enough in light of what we have just gone through to create a different outcome?
Probably not, but it's a step.
My only point.
It's
I don't disrespect the process that you're trying to get at. My question is what are people really asking for? Was that done? If you're making, so if like I just changed the color of the building, which I think is what you're doing, but the whole building's been rejected.
No,
Do you wanna go through
it's
that
more
process
substantive than that.
Okay.
And when we went through this process in the public hearing process, this table of uses, there were significant changes to be made, and really, with the talent of the zoning task force and this group, we can decide on, are these things that should wait till the master plan's done, or can we do these things
I'll
now?
look at every one of them even further. You know, it's peel
Right.
back the apple, peel it back the
Yeah.
onion, and to find out why that is the way it is and why that occurred, if we want.
So that would be the process that we would like, and I support it, because it brings our zoning task force into play with their recommendations to fine-tune things. They come back here, and collectively, we go down over it with a fine-tooth comb and to make sure that it is substantive. It's not just paint on a house.
Or I'm sorry, I'm confused, I must be dense. Why would we start to change the permitted uses in a zone before the master plan is even, it's not even being considered in the master plan? And
Well-
we're already halfway done with the zoning and the land
No,
use
but we would have to do
chapters?
this at some point anyway.
Understood,
Yeah.
understood.
And-
We'd have to do it at some point, but why do it now?
Well, after the zoning task force comes back with their report,
Yeah.
we can decide on, nope, hold off, we're not going to do it now, or it will give a chance to look at these things in depth again. Because we did go through the full formal process and did recommend to the city council that they make these changes, and it just wasn't done. And so now to look at these other suggestions, it can be the zoning task force comes back and said, David Bounds, no, we don't want to do that, but here's the detailed reasons.
So how will we line those up with the master plan?
We'll decide on when the report comes back.
And
Do
maybe some of it
they
can't be
align or
lined
don't
up.
they align?
Maybe some can't be lined up.
Maybe some can't. If we decide at that time that we don't want to move forward with recommending these changes to the city council, then it just stops,
I got it.
because that's our responsibility.
Let's see again.
Yes, Joey?
Does this, are these,
Condition-
you said this is for the whole commercial resort?
Yeah,
Oh, I can hear this stuff.
because the CR zone is a large,
So it's all of Weirs Boulevard and then all of Route 3?
That means.
yeah, and more area there, too,
Someone comes in and says, I want to put.
defined by the current
Square foot
CR zone.
barber shop, and we said, oh, you got.
So a motion has been made.
I'll second that.
Charlie seconds it.
Good.
Can you guys, we're going to vote. Yeah, we're going to vote. The motion's been made to do what we discussed. Seconded, Charlie seconded.
And that's to go where, to the Z?
The ZTF,
Okay, you
yep.
seconded, Charlie? Okay.
Yeah, Charlie did.
All right.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise their right hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Just one.
So noted. Thank you. And we will do that then. That's outstanding.
Are you going to be there?
I beg your pardon?
Are you going to come to that meeting, the ZTF?
Who knows?
Oh, coffee.
Yes.
Maybe you guys
Warren,
can get
can I just
coffee
say one
then.
thing?
Yes.
As a result of the planning board's recommendation, what I'll do is I will make sure that the use chart as proposed is on the city's website and advertised in the same manner that I advertised the CR2 zone proposal, so we can get it out there and people can start looking at it.
Well, excellent. That's
Randy,
very
when you
good.
do that, if you just take this here,
Yep.
would you put a little key legend in it, what those different symbols mean, the CDRs and all that?
Yeah, I'll
Or
clean
make
it
sure-
up a little bit too, so it doesn't say changes discussed with Brandy at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Super duper. Well, that's outstanding, and I thank everyone for your time and consideration. Now, we will go back to the top of the page. The extension request. First is the extension request for application 04-031 SP, 04-019 CUP cluster, 04-020 CUP wetlands, Endicott Street East, Governor's Crossing. Let's see, we don't have to accept this because it's
No, it's
not
just
new,
an
so we can
extension.
move right in.
Yep.
Would the applicant like to address us?
Yes. The Governor's Crossing project, we actually did do a decent amount of work out there this year. The detention pond is in down on the new side. We updated some driveway permits. I'm working with the state of New Hampshire, getting all updated sewer permits. We're planning on going in there spring. At this point, we're working on finishing up another project that Dick has in Guilford and going into Governor's Crossing in the spring and finishing out the road all the way up. He's actually done a couple more spec houses in the existing part of it that's on the new public accepted road and has sold a couple houses over there, so it's looking good for getting Phase 2 completed in 2017. So we're here for asking for an extension for another year.
So what are the dates you're looking for?
What's that?
What are the dates you're looking for, just another year?
Yeah, one more, an extension, but 1 year forward again. Like,
I'm sorry.
same process we've been going through, and trying to make progress on the project.
You really think you'll be able to get Phase 2 done in a year's time?
Well, he can only
Just the roadway.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, just the, not all the houses, no.
Oh, okay.
No, in terms of like vesting the project, that once the roadway's in, then we don't have to come back for any more extensions. It's a completed project.
Gotcha, I understand.
So what's the holdup? Just curious.
Still, I mean, there's been some sales in Phase 1, and we're kind of chipping away at
So it's
Phase 2.
economic.
Yeah, it's
not,
economics.
Yep. Sales are not there, okay. So economically, it's that, not necessarily availability of
You
workers.
still got, how many lots in Phase 1?
Still about 10 lots, 12 lots in Phase 1.
That haven't.
Understandable, I just didn't know. I
Yep.
The economics
Got a better
aren't there.
feeling, I got a feely-touchy, okay.
Yep.
Okay, staff?
As John said, they've, been making some progress, and I've seen, a fair amount of building permits come through this year on Phase 1, so they're definitely, they're making progress in that way. We don't have any problem with the extension.
Excellent. Is there any question of the board to either the applicant or to Brandy? Seeing none, then, I will ask for a motion to grant the extension.
Make a motion that we move it on, we grant the extension. And I'm looking for the dates over here.
December 5th?
Yes, December 5th would
Yeah.
be your request date. Okay.
Yep.
Is that fine, that motion fine?
Yes.
Is there a second? Excellent, motion's made and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Outstanding, the motion passes unanimously.
Sorry, I'll retroactively clarify, December 5th, 2017.
Yes.
Figured that.
Yeah, that's, what did we say, 16?
That's a good point, that's an important...
You didn't say a year, I just want to make
I
sure it's in the
didn't say the
record.
year.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's not 18, 19, 20.
Let's get the correct detail.
That would work.
Glad that you would try that. Excellent, outstanding. Oh, I see, I can...
You're again for the next round?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Just
The next is an extension request for application 06-010 SU, 06-007 CUP cluster, 06-008 CUP wetlands, Route 106, 107 Lilac Valley Estates, and it is, as the last one, well, there's two extension requests here, one for Phase 2 and one for Phase 3.
Yep, we've been doing it this way for the last couple times, the Phase 2 and Phase 3. At this time, Phase 1 is constructed, we're working on just the final as-bills with the Water Department, the DPW, and planning. But basically, it's constructed, it's paved, we're basically almost ready for building permits on Phase 2. So where we've been working on it, it's now at a done stage. We're just finishing as-bills.
Oh,
So Phase 2, you'll never see again after this, and the only reason we're asking is we just haven't finished the as-bills. And Phase 3, we're planning on starting as soon as we have everything kind of wrapped up and get some units going in Phase 2.
And that probably wouldn't happen until next year sometime.
It'd be at least next year for sure, and depending upon what they do with, if they decide to build all the units in Phase 2, which is still a possibility, like all the units in Phase 2 could potentially get built next year.
Well, that'd be outstanding.
How many units are in Phase 2? Just
24.
Okay, thank you.
24 more. Wait, 24 plus 3 on John Drive, so it could be as many as 27 units next year. And if they do it the way they've been doing it, it would be all rentals.
All rentals?
Yeah. Everything they've been building has been rentals lately.
Could I ask a question? This property was previously owned by somebody else, by Mr. Baldy.
Yep.
And under the terms of his contract, there was a requirement for improvement to Old Prescott Hill Road.
Yep. All those agreements are in place with Belmont.
Which was contingent upon Phase 2.
Yep, going in, that'll be part of what happens in the Phase 3. A bunch of the contingent things that were in the improvements on Old Prescott Hill Road, Belmont has actually already done.
Well, the town itself did a reclaiming, or a layover.
Yep, but there were some drainage improvements.
It was supposed to be reclaimed by the company that was building the project, a complete reclamation.
That's changed, and we've been...
All right.
Yeah, and we've been working with Belmont on it, and we have an agreement in place. This developer has an agreement in Belmont for all the work that they've already done, and there are some additional things that need to be done in Belmont, so...
And because it's 7 years since that agreement was made, how about the Laconia side of the road?
The agreement with Belmont has been just in the last probably 2 years that we've been meeting with.
It didn't go, when you took over the property, you didn't get, it didn't go with the property, the agreement?
No, parts of that agreement are, what I'm saying is, Belmont wanted things that were in that agreement done, and it was basically a dead project, so Belmont went ahead and did them. A bunch of it, not all of it, but they did a bunch of it. And we have an agreement with Belmont for the work that they did, that when we do Phase 3, there's a monetary contribution that has to go to Belmont to give credit for the work that they had done. And there are a couple additional things that we still have to do, but that's something that we've been working on too, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant or staff? Seeing none, then, I'll request a motion.
I'll move the approval of extension request for application 06-010SU and 06-007 CUP and 06-008 CUP, Lilac Valley Estates, and the extensions will be for Phase 2 completion to November 14th, 2017, and Phase 3 completion to December 5th, 2017.
Excellent. Is there a second to the motion? I'll second it. Jay seconds it. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise their right hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Under our public hearing category on the agenda is a conceptual review. No action is required of the board, and for those attending, what a conceptual review is, it's a wonderful process, really, where applicants can come before the planning board and the planning staff and talk about their project prior to doing expensive and extensive engineering work and requiring third-party consultants. This is the second time that they have been here, and I believe that they're responding to direction from the board or concerns with a need to cause the plan to change. Yes, sir. Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, Patrick Wood of Patrick Wood Law Office, here representing Phoenix Capital, who's the developer of this project. With me this evening Mr. Vahe Apelian and Mirvat Nahikian and Mr. Jeff Kivan of TF Moran,
and my son Ethan, who's hiding behind the podium, or the map there. I do want to pass out something just for part of our discussion. We are here, again, as you've noted, Mr. Chairman, for a conceptual review of the project. Just as a quick refresher, this was originally a 126-unit multi-family development. The approvals have expired. Coming back with a revised plan with 85 units, most of them single-family, some twin homes or duplexes, using the same road configuration from the prior development, because, with one minor exception, but basically because the roads had already been graded and cleared, the lot had been cleared. The only exception is we've added a second point of access, or egress, I should say, onto Endicott Street East. We have, after the last meeting, gone back, done a lot of review and some engineering, and what we want to talk about tonight are what we have, and then a couple of issues that we would like to get your feedback on. The first thing is, all of the structures are at least 20 feet apart from each other. So that meets that 10-foot requirement. The green spaces are connected in this sense that the green space, as you come in off of Route 11, the long, narrow green space, there's a walkway that goes onto the sidewalks, and there are the ability to go along the sidewalks to get to the walking trail within the other green area, as well as the access to the new park in the Weirs. There will be sidewalks along every side of the property where there is a house. The side that doesn't have a house will not have a sidewalk.
Say again, the side that doesn't have a house won't have a sidewalk.
That's correct. For example, on the east side of what's called Sparrow Lane,
Oh, okay,
no houses
okay,
over there,
okay.
no sidewalk there.
Thank you.
Okay, just
What about
sidewalk.
along 11B?
On 11B, there will be a sidewalk, yes.
Ah, thank you.
that-
We are filling in that whole stretch.
Sooner or later, huh?
The wetlands areas are designated on this plan in the blue circling area, and there are two major ones on this plan. That's a 50-foot setback. We're meeting the 50-foot setback with all of our structures. The buffer around the project is supposed to be 75 with the possibility of a waiver to 40, and we're going to be asking for a waiver for the 40 feet on the perimeter buffer. So what is our problem? Well, the problem is...
Pat, can I just one question?
Sorry, yeah.
What's on the other side of the property, so if it was 40 feet, what would be the buffer? I know on one side is what?
On the west side is the park and the commercial development.
Park, okay.
Okay.
And over there
On
is,
the immediate east side on 11B is a condominium development.
okay, that's already established,
That's already established, the buildings
okay.
are there.
Yep.
On the other east side is a residential development.
And that's established?
It's already established.
Okay.
And on the north, there is an open space that there is no development on at all before you get to the Pendleton Beach.
And we had a little conversation about that space up there. What is that, who is it, and what can be done
It's
there?
a single family, they own that.
Okay.
Plus, they own a lot on Pendleton Beach Road. Okay.
Thank you.
The family that owned that entirety, when it was sold, retained this area as a buffer area for them.
That's right. They owned all of this. We purchased, my client purchased it from them. And
So there's a
they-
buffer on that
That's
property
right.
line that you can't go beyond, they can't go beyond?
Right.
Okay.
So, So that's the waiver that we're asking for on that. But if you can, and we've given you the small version of this plan, and there's a yellow line that is the additional 10-foot setback from the buffers. It's that 10-foot setback that we're talking about. And what I've handed out today is a copy of a portion of your ordinance where it talks about that 10-foot buffer as being something that, with a conditional use permit, could be modified. And it's not every unit that we're talking about, but there are some, because of the need to have a driveway that's 20 feet long for additional parking. Some of these units in the northwest and on the northerly part would be within that 10-foot setback. They're outside of the 40-foot buffer, but they're within the 10-foot setback. In addition, there are some that are within the 10-foot setback from the wetlands buffer in a few places. And what we want to get a feel from you is, should we continue with this process and ask for the conditional use permit for those few units that are within that 10-foot setback when we meet the basic buffer requirements everywhere else?
So we're just saying, right, what this shows is 40 plus 10. That yellow line
That's right.
represents 50 feet.
Right.
But you're going to build to the 40-foot setback.
That's what we're asking for.
But I mean, okay, I got you.
Right.
But right now, this shows 40 feet, and the yellow would be the 50-foot.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's a 50-foot buffer from wetlands, and plus the 10-foot setback. All right, and we're asking for your opinion, your comments on the, a request for a conditional use permit to encroach into that 10-foot setback in certain cases.
Is there any involvement here by the ZBA?
No, because they're meeting, the cluster, this is going to be a cluster development, and the cluster ordinance, it's in the zoning ordinance, but it's administered by the planning board.
Oh, okay.
And what it requires is an additional setback on top of the border buffer, what I'll call the border buffer, and the wetland buffers. And that's 10 feet. So you have an existing setback plus an additional, or an existing buffer plus an additional setback that our ordinance has a provision in it for the planning board to grant a CUP in order to build in that 10-foot setback.
What was the rationale for that 10-foot addition?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's really, this is an innovative land use ordinance. So it was probably just to ensure that on such, on such a, pretty dense lot, that's kind of the design. It's meant to pack things close together, just to ensure that the open spaces are truly protected.
Okay.
But we can grant that CUP
Yep.
to encroach within that 10 feet.
You can. Yep.
We could actually grant them permission to encroach on the buffer, too, couldn't we?
That's not quite so clear. It's very clearly spelled out that you can grant them a CUP for the 10-foot setback.
Haven't we done that before?
Yes.
That's different. That on the wetland buffer, yes. That's correct. On the wetland buffer, yes.
Yes.
On that 40-foot kind of perimeter buffer, it's not quite so clear, but definitely on the wetland buffer, it's very similar. Yes.
So the yellow represents 50 foot on the wetland buffer, correct?
No, the yellow represents 60 feet.
60 feet, okay, and the other line is the 50 feet.
Perimeter is 50 feet, that's right.
Okay.
It's 10 feet.
Why are
from
you, excuse me, why are you showing 60 feet instead of 50 feet on that drawing?
Well, the wetland buffer is 50 feet.
Correct.
So
Then you show 10 feet beyond that, why would you?
Because the cluster ordinance require.
the ordinance says you have to have a 10-foot setback from any buffer.
Any buffer.
Any buffer.
Gotcha, all right, just want to be clear on that. Right.
That's why we're...
Gotcha, I just wanted
Okay.
to get that clarified.
The other thing is, under the ordinance, is 900 square feet of personal space, we've got that with each of these sites as well. So that's the primary question that we wanted you to think about when we submitted this application for the conceptual review. So again, we've met basically all of the perimeter buffers around the wetlands and the perimeter buffers. We've met all of those. It's just that 10-foot additional setback. We've met the distances between the structures. We've got the 900 square feet for each unit. So we've done all of that. Now, because this project was started as long ago as it was, there have been some changes, both in the property and in the state regulations. And we need to talk a little bit about one of those changes, or two of those changes that affect this property. And I'm going to ask Mr. Cavan to introduce that to you. It's primarily dealing with wetlands. So,
Good evening.
Hi.
Jeff Cavan with T.F. Moran's office. I also mentioned, we have gone through, so this plan is based on the original topographic wetlands mapping that was done. We have been updating that, and I just got a draft of that today or yesterday morning. So as we're looking at this, we've gone through and done our calculations for open space in addition to, so based on calculations on here, we need for 50% open space, 334,000 square feet, and we are proposing greater than that by 10,000 square feet or so. So we've met the open space calculation as well for the cluster. So the issues that we have, the changes that have occurred in the regulations are alteration terrain, one, has jacked up their rainfall intensities.
That's state, right?
That's state.
DES.
Yeah, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So they raised the rainfall intensities. So the oddity of that is, like the pond that we have here will have to be modified to accommodate their new standards.
In what way?
My guess is it'll probably have to get a little bit bigger. They also look for infiltration if we can provide it, and some pre-treatment, which is normally like a 4-bay, a small, like a plunge pool as it enters.
So point to where you have to make it larger.
It's back in this area. And
Back in there. So what's that got to?
We will keep it back in that area.
Back on the wetlands. Does that affect your wetlands?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, that won't affect our wetlands. The interesting point about that is I have detention ponds that have been in place, functioned for 30 years. I throw these rainfall intensities and they're topping into roadways, So it's pretty conservative, but that's what they're having us do. Okay. The second item is we updated the wetlands, and I have an interesting issue. So contractor came in, clear-cut the tree area per the approved plan, rough graded portions of the road, built a section of sewer, and what I have now is I have an area that was cut down to subgrade that is now jurisdictional wetlands because it was lowered and not been brought back up to
Over time.
So it sat down low,
Okay.
close enough to water table that the state of New Hampshire considers it jurisdictional wetlands. I also have a pocket down here. These two are both about 7,000 square feet each. We went up and had a meeting with kind of the lower level tier reviewer at the Wetlands Bureau. Tried to present it. They have a section in their regulation that says if something was put in for drainage, you're allowed to modify it and take care of it. You don't need a permit to do that. They said they don't consider that situation. So we will have to go through what we're going to do is elevate this and try to go a little bit higher up and make that argument that, again, the contractor wasn't doing anything other than prepping for the road, and then when the economy went, it just sat. And
So what could be the net effect of what you're talking about on that plan?
Meeting with them, even if I have to go through their process, they said they see no problem with granting me an approval to fill those areas and put them back into the project. We will have to do mitigation, and mitigation in today's atmosphere is you pay into the ARM fund, unless Laconia has a project that you all have on the tables, or Conservation Commission has on the tables, that you would like something to, a contribution to.
I would think that, Brandy, you could make...
Can we assign a number to
I
that?
could ask around.
Yes.
The state assigns a pretty good number to it. But I have had it in other towns where the town had either a piece of property to purchase next to a conservation parcel or something like that, where if it was identified early enough, we bring it right to the state and say, okay, we calculate the dollar amount based on their formula, and that money can go to the purchase of that property. It stays in the community, and, the mitigation occurs in the area.
But you can also mitigate it yourself and access those ARM funds.
Us?
Yes.
As far as mitigation, it's
more expensive.
They do not like the creation of wetlands a whole lot. They think it's hit or miss. And so they really have pushed...
Do it for DOT all the time.
The DOT, I would say yes. That's the state of New Hampshire, but from a private entity, I really haven't seen much in the way of mitigation on site, as in creating wetlands, probably for the last 5 or so years. And if you're donating conservation land, it's really gotten to the point where it's difficult unless you're donating large tracts, 50, 75, 100 acres, because an entity has to accept that and be the steward of that easement. And groups do not like to take 5 acres or 10 acres or something like that. So really, this in lieu fee is where most of the mitigation is going at this point in time. So.
Two thoughts in that regard. One, where they're accessing the community park, it may very well be that the city's plans for development of that section needs additional funding. Second might be the sense we were talking about with that sidewalk being there all the way up to the Morissette's new property.
Mm-hmm.
There are areas that need to be filled in.
I think we'd have to see what exactly those funds have to go to.
Yeah, well, I'm just tossing out a couple
Yep.
suggestions
Some-
for
some-
improvement in that immediate area.
Some communities have had culverts and things that needed replacement, where you would go to a bottomless structure or something like that. So it's usually more revolved around drainage and stormwater
And
than
we
it
have a
would
lot
be
of
a
stormwater
sidewalk,
right now,
but
yep.
the question could be raised.
Right.
Yep.
Those are just my
Yeah.
Getting back to your setback, so you're really here to put forward to us, is your setbacks, whether it be your sidelines,
Yeah.
with the additional 10 feet there, and your wetlands. Anything else on that?
Like I said, so we have these two pockets. This wetland is for the most part the same. My wetland scientist did map a connection through here, and there's a little finger that we're going to take another look at. But there is some change here where we might be in a buffer.
Okay, so...
But it's keeping in mind that, again, what's interesting with this project is the site was cleared as far as where roads were set up. All that had been put into place to some extent. There's a nice pile of rock right here. And, so we're dealing with something that kind of was started, installed.
And we understand that
Work with it.
project from years ago.
Yep.
I think I got still mud on my shoes for that. But, so we understand it, so you know.
Okay.
So my two thoughts are, and the board has to share theirs, obviously. That 10-foot is meaningless to me along the sidelines, totally meaningless, because you're buffered. You have a buffer because you don't want to be on the other guy's back property.
That's right.
That's what that's all about. And there's no other guy's back property here, by and large. I mean, everything's done, it's been benchmarked, so to speak. As far as the wetlands buffer, that 10-foot, we require 50 feet, and that is, you know what I'm saying? That's where that comes from. Or it could be 25 feet.
It used to be 30.
Yeah, you got to know, you know what I'm saying? So as far as that's concerned, okay, I don't feel that 10-foot is, I think it helps the project, it helps the residents, because all you're going to do is you're going to crunch down on your spacing, because that's not all 20 feet, there's some that are more than 20 feet apart. I mean, so that means that the quality of that project can, yes, it can go downhill, and you're right, Pat. So I don't see, in my opinion, and the rest of the board jump in, my opinion, I don't see any problem moving on, overlooking that 10-foot additional setback. And that's my input on that.
Any other comments?
You're not here for an approval on this project.
No.
You're just presenting this to us, so when you bring this entire project back, you can point out these issues.
That's right, and we're going to...
And hope we can address them now.
No, we haven't done something that the board knows right now that they're in opposition.
That's
So,
right.
And how many units are affected
How many?
by the
By the
10-foot setback?
The 10-foot setback? I think it's about 15, but I'll let Jeff.
Okay.
It's in that ballpark.
Yeah, it's about 50.
All right, that's all I had. Go on.
I think the only thing that when I look at this too, and it's just that entrance that we have for all 85 buildings is fine, as far as moving traffic in and out of there. When you look at that.
Once a development gets over 50, it's required to have 2 exits.
And that's what the
Exits or
second.
entrances?
I thought the second one was going to be closed.
It's an
I thought so,
emergency.
too.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about it being gated.
Okay.
So that would be-
We'll work with fire department.
That would be a discussion with the fire department. If the fire department says it's got to be open, then it'll be
It has to
open.
But right now, you're just going to have an emergency exit right there.
That's what the plan is right now. But again, we haven't talked to the fire department specifically about that. But
And we
will.
have to go through New Hampshire DOT.
And we can certainly ask for a third-party traffic study if that's a concern of the board.
There was a
I
traffic
think
study
the
a long time
codes
ago.
probably have
Yeah.
done the research for it, as long as it passes. It just seems, like you've got kind of a dense population way back, and there's distance to it, so they're also not right on the road where you would see exits closer to where the density is. So it just seems a little bit tough, like,
Well, it's sort of like Southdown in a sense, though.
Right.
I mean, you've got
yep.
an area that you drive in before you get to the houses. We tried to...
Is DOT still in agreement? I think they expressed this before their opinion, that you do not need to add a turning lane onto 11B?
That's something we'll work with as we move forward. We haven't gone through that process.
Because it was brought up here, it was Charlie, I think.
Yeah, Charlie
it up.
brought that up. Or Mr.
I
Sinclair,
concerned
sorry.
that is on a hill, and it is leading right into the traffic circle, and White Oaks is coming in there. It seems reasonable that the state would say, no, you need to have a turning, getting in, getting out, or something.
They didn't before.
Yeah, which is weird.
Well, I mean, there was a detailed
But if they-
traffic study at that time.
But if they did, you could accommodate that.
Well, we'd have to. That's
I mean,
right.
you have to, but I'm just saying, what I see in that layout
Right.
could accommodate that by just adding that in there. Am I correct when I say that? Okay.
Right.
So if I could follow up on that, I would go ahead and do that, no matter what the DOT says, because you've driven up there, you know the terrain up there. You're looking at 85 buildings up there. Let's say they have 60 vehicles, and I'm assuming they can have visitors up there that drive in and out. So potentially, on that spot right there, weather-related, wintertime, whatever, I can just see problems up there on that hill up there. So I'm thinking, you guys, if it was my development, not my money, but if it was mine, I'd be jumping all over that before rather than having to react to it after.
And we're not saying we won't do that. It's
Had
just-
you-
It'd be a smart move.
Had
That's
you
just
seen
my-
Southdown?
That's right.
And when you enter Southdown,
Right.
before you get to the entrance, let's say you're going north on 106, you could pull over and then make your turn.
That's right.
And, that's, I think is a plus.
Right.
Now, going the other way, I wish there was a little place to go out. So, I mean, I look at your layout there, and I say, well, that could be accommodated that way. It's almost like a turnaround, but not that way. It's not...
And the difference between that and Southtown is that the Parade Road there is not on a hill.
No, I understand it, but I mean, you can pull over, that's my point. You don't have to get right in the travel lane.
And then somebody else asked me if I knew if this was, is this like a 55-plus community, or is this any family?
No.
Okay, just...
70-plus.
I'm almost there.
Right? All right, Charlie, all right?
I'm not there yet, but I'm closer to 70 than 50, that's for sure, so, okay.
Not to beat up, but that 11B on that hill, I live beyond it, and I'm on that hill a lot in the winter. Even though the state does a great job, in my opinion, that is slippery as a son of a gun. And cars are fishtailing up that hill to get up it, and...
We're just beyond the hill.
Which makes it even worse.
Well, it's good for us.
Because you come up and all of a sudden you're right there. And then if you're stopped on a hill in those weather conditions, I'm just saying.
We definitely are aware of it. We've talked about it. We don't have the engineering at this point.
We will contact the state and more than likely sit down with some type of scoping meeting if it's necessary, and the town would be, obviously, normally the town actually initiates that. So.
And you have sufficient line of sight, right? I mean, yeah.
Where this is a conceptual, you can pretty much tell the concerns here of the board to do something with that entrance. I think Councilor Berry ever brought that up too, didn't you? Earlier on. Catching on, she'll be a full-timer.
Well, she'll get there. The mitigation of the wetlands issue that Mr. Cavan talked about before can be done under a conditional use permit, so that would be an additional conditional use permit that we would be asking for in the project. There's one other thing I do want to talk, are you done for the moment?
You know, what would be helpful, I'm going to address this to Brandy, all these things that we're discussing here and that we're thinking that would be a positive on this project, if we could just recap that the next time they come in, whether they're applying, that we can, you know, say, hey, this is what you guys said, this is what the group said, and this is what they've done.
Sure.
We can do a check and balance on that.
We're hoping that this will be our last conceptual review, and we'll be coming in with plans the next time for a real submission.
When do you think that might be?
It depends on the schedule of the engineers, how soon they can put their stuff together. We would love to be here before February, if we could. Be here at the February meeting, maybe January. Yeah, February. Sorry, Chuck.
Oh, excellent, good.
Sounds good.
That's sort of what we're thinking about. Now, at the northerly part of the building, or the property, there's a little building here that we've sort of designated as the pump house. The pump house itself will not be that large, and this building is going to be moved westerly a little bit. But we want to make that sort of a community room as well.
Isn't there a pump house there now, from the old people?
Not
The
yet.
old development?
Not yet. No.
Was there one?
There was one proposed.
There was one, okay.
It was proposed, but it hasn't been built there. But the size of this building is approximately the size of what the community building would be. So we just want you to know that that's going to be part of our proposal as well, that there'll be that community building there.
And that's it?
That's it. That would be for the association members to meet there.
Yeah, what about the kids and stuff?
Well, we have...
It's not an over 55 child.
Playground here, we've got open space, a gazebo here for resting.
So what are you going to put in there?
Most important,
What are you going to put in there for?
yeah, and mostly, we've got this walkway right here to the park.
It looks good.
I get that, but what are you putting in there for the kids? What's going to actually go in the playground?
Playground. What?
Like what?
Playground materials.
Yeah, playground material, exactly, thank you, whatever.
Swing.
Swings and
We got it.
slides and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, keep on talking, that's what I want to hear.
Whatever goes in a playground.
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
ideas for a playground?
Well, it could be a playground, could be just flat grass.
It's not going to be for adults, let's put it that way, all right?
Playground could be flat grass, let's be clear on that.
We're not going to be playing there.
Okay,
will,
so
the
we're
planning
gonna have some, we're gonna have some things in there that are just more than flat grass for a playground.
That's
All right.
my understanding of the plan.
I want to qualify that.
Answer is yes.
Right.
So you're gonna, and when you do your organizational thing, are you gonna put that dollar amount in your in your charter that you're going to allocate so much money for that to be done?
For
In
the
other words,
play-
what the community has allocated, you've allocated $20,000 for that playground.
Oh, yeah, that'll be
That's going to be in writing.
in the construction budget.
And it's going to be something that the residents will see and know. Is this going to be eventually run by the community?
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay. So that community will know there's if you guys don't do it, there's $20,000, or whatever the number is,
Whatever it is.
to implement that playground.
Definitely.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You have a design in mind?
No, not at all, but I know what can happen.
I was
know
just
we can
teasing.
talk
I'm
about
Bill,
it,
that was
and-
very
and then it
out of
doesn't
line. I'm
happen,
sorry.
And there's no funding for it.
I know.
And I want to make sure the funding's there for the residents, that's all I'm saying. Okay.
I'm
And
sorry.
and you're aware Kevin can be a resource to you?
Oh, Kevin is a great resource, and we can certainly tap into him. And the idea of that is we don't want to take anything away from the park. We want to feed back and forth to the park. So whatever, when talking to Kevin, whatever he thinks would be a good thing to have up there, we can certainly follow his lead on that as well.
Super.
Kevin Dunleavy is the Director of Parks and Recreation.
You mentioned the pump house, that's a lift station? Did you say pump house?
Yeah, well, yes.
It's a
Originally, it was a suction lift station, but we may look at a submersible type station instead.
But it is some type of a
It is
lift
pump.
station, a sewage
Yeah,
lift station.
It's for the sewer.
Basically, sewer all flows backwards to here and then is pumped out to the road. And this section of sewer from here to here is already in.
Is that because of the topographic issue going in that direction, is it?
What's that?
Topographically, it goes out in that direction?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
That's controlled by Public Works, isn't it?
Right.
Randy?
The sewer system?
All the requirements, emergency generation and control
Yeah,
mechanisms, all okay.
Yep,
We have to
the-
file a new application with the town and the state for wastewater.
Does anyone on the board have any issue with that 10-foot buffer or anything that they said that they need to change or incorporate? Because we don't, we'd like to get that out now so that they don't spend any additional money on engineering to have to back up at the next meeting. Great.
And you all feel comfortable as far as the man-made wetlands, if we have to file a wetlands application, a conditional use permit from you?
And you'll follow that.
Yeah, it'll follow the standard procedure. We'll get reviewed by the Conservation Commission and recommendations from other departments to you in our staff review.
Excellent.
We're probably going to try to get to meet with them sometime in the next few weeks as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Give them a heads up on that as well.
Why did you change the name of the project?
Why?
Yeah.
Because Lakewood is already used.
Oh, you're using it, aren't you, personally?
No.
Oh, you're not? Oh.
No. There is a Lakewood Development subdivision in the Shore Drive area, and there's another Lake Village or something that was on Elm Street that we were told about, so we're changing it to the Gardens.
When I saw it, I thought you were talking about the Winnipesaukee
That's-
Gardens.
It may be something else. It may be the Appelian.
Okay. Any other questions? No?
Just so.
Do you have any?
Just as a recap, then, we're probably going to ask for obviously the CUP for the cluster, a waiver of the perimeter buffer from 75 feet to 40 feet, a CUP for the 10-foot setbacks from the buffers, and a CUP for the mitigation of the wetlands.
Sounds good? Everyone?
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Project a lot, so,
Yeah. This is a
Like that
dynamite
project a
project.
lot.
It's going to be
Laid
a...
out well, it's comprehensive, and I think it'd be a very comfortable place to live, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's what we think too. We hope so. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Great.
something different than other than.
Yeah, it'd be great to get you guys
discussing
in touch with
school
the
budget.
Concom.
I know, it's very interesting.
Thank you.
But it's a little behind me. but-
Well, that's, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's why it's
So,
just the whole
exact-
group.
no,
What helps a lot, too, is that all applications go before the technical review committee, which are all the department
Yeah.
heads, and they're really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So technically, we're into,
Okay.
does it fit, does it work?
Oh, no, next is-
Yeah, that is exactly, yes, that was it.
Put it out there.
It looks
It's
it.
conceptual. This is.
Very ambitious.
Yeah, especially with, thank you, with the issues of demand. It's almost like sometimes each developer doesn't talk to the other one.
I know, I know.
Excellent. We'll move on to then, under public hearings, PL 2016-0097, see,
Just ask a question,
sure.
because I'm going to butt up.
Well, she's a neighbor too, so.
Why wasn't I notified about the meeting?
For the conceptual review,
Yes.
it's just a conceptual review, it's not an actual approval by the planning board.
Okay.
So once,
I mean, shouldn't I have been notified?
well, once there's an actual application, you will be notified. So
Okay.
you'll be able to
Alright.
come in and review it at the office. Yeah, we didn't have an actual,
Both my sister-in-laws are involved, too.
yep. So once we have an actual application before us with plans, so you can come in and
Didn't
look at it.
understand.
Yep.
Didn't understand.
Yep.
Our family owned that since 1932 originally. It's part of a 50-acre estate, okay? All right, I just want you to know that.
Yep. If you're in a butter, you should be notified. If you're in a butter, you should be, you'll be
Oh,
notified once.
definitely, but
once
we have a
the
safer
application.
barrier behind, 10 acres. Make sure that he doesn't come into the 10 acres.
All right.
You don't want it to go into that property and behind you, is that what you're saying?
I'm on 1 Pendleton Beach Road.
Yeah, that's what you're
That's your
saying.
property.
And I
behind
knew
you,
about the
okay.
meeting is because Warren is a neighbor.
We can't take your input, but we're hearing it. I hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll make sure you know.
I hope you know.
Let's see, where were we? Oh, yeah, public hearings, PL 2016-0097 CUP, Trails End, Lot 206, proposal to build a house in wetland buffer, and that, we accepted
You
this before?
accepted that previously, yes.
Boy, are we good.
I know.
Okay.
My name is Brett Allard. I'm here with Westcott Law on behalf of the applicants Bob and Sherry Pryor on the CUP proposal. Do you guys already have copies of this, or have you seen it?
They should have
Yep.
copies.
That's it.
Paper.
We have that?
Yes, sir.
So, when the Willows was, this development was first approved, as it's already actually been discussed tonight, the original setback from the, for the wetlands buffer was 30 feet. It's since been expanded to 50 feet. And you can see that the blue line here is the building envelope that the structures are required to be built within. So, as a matter of fact, now the 50-foot wetland buffer encroaches upon the building envelope significantly. So, we don't have a lot more to add tonight other than what the staff has already recommended in their report, which is that no structure comes closer than 32 feet from to the wetland, and that the patio, which is down in this area, doesn't extend beyond 25 feet from the water line. The plan that has been put forth in the application complies with those recommendations and requirements. The only thing that I would note is that there's also a plan to put a bulkhead in there. That'll be contained completely on the patio, so there's no further encroachment or impacted area aside from what you would see on the plan.
So back in the day when that development was laid out with those ponds, what was the setback back then?
30 feet.
30 feet, okay. So really, that whole area, lots were laid out and developed with a 30-foot setback?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you could see if when the 50-foot setback, the line comes through, they're not huge
Yeah,
lots.
I got you. I just want to establish, I want to benchmark why these lots, the way they look, because of that premise. And as time has gone by, things have changed, and that's what I'm hearing.
That's correct.
I got enough information. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
When was this lot purchased?
When was the
This
lot
particular lot
purchased?
Yeah.
Purchased it in March
of this year?
this year.
And when you purchased that lot, you knew the setback was 50 feet.
No.
You didn't?
When I purchased the lot, I was told that you could build anywhere within that building envelope.
Okay.
And I looked around the adjoining houses.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a vacant lot on either side of it. The next house, it's right at 20 feet.
Mhm.
Back of the building is 20 feet from the water.
Okay.
There's several that are in the 24, 26-foot range.
Yep.
So I assumed that the building envelope was the building envelope. And when I talked to Brandy, to get clarification, once the association president told me it may be an issue, Brandy told me about the 50 feet and so forth. That's when we requested the 20-foot setback, because the 20-foot basically comes right to the back of that building envelope. So I don't know if at some point they design those with a 20-foot, because I don't know how they design a building envelope inside of the 30-foot setback. At some point, it must have been 20 or,
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't find that, but.
It would virtually make the lot no value at all.
Correct. I could put
That's what
a
it
phone booth on it with a 50 feet.
I get that, I understand that.
So are lots 205 and 207, are they vacant?
205 and 207 are vacant. So originally, I thought the
Could you
building
identify,
envelope-
for your record, could you just identify?
Robert Fryer, that's owner of 206 Trails End. Originally, the building envelope is 50 by 70 with a little jog in the back, so I was told I could build 50 feet wide.
Yep.
Then we found out that this has got to be 25 feet between structures, so to get the 25 feet between structures, we got to come in 6, 7 feet on either side of that. So now my 50 feet is 36 feet, and my 70 to 80 feet, depending on how you measure the lot, is now about 30 feet. So that's why we're here. The bulkhead, we have no place else to put it except out the back of the patio. Where the jog sticks out, that's a sliders that go out on the patio, and then there's floor-to-ceiling windows. So the only place we can put it is over about where the P is on patio. I guess the 5 by 8 is typical bulkhead. And then we.
So if you were to look out back of that house, what would you see, a pond?
If you stand the back of the
Let's say
pond.
with this house, you're sitting in that patio, and you were to look out back, you would see a pond?
Yes.
And then you would see what?
It goes across the pond and back, and the house is on the other side.
There's houses, and how far is that?
How far across the pond?
Yeah.
50 feet, I'm guessing.
60 feet?
40 feet.
I think it's a little more than that, because I live on the other end of that pond.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Right.
In the banking, there's a very steep banking coming up from the pond, and then the entire lot virtually slopes towards the street.
Yours?
Mine. Correct.
Randy, why would they have increased from 30 feet to 50 feet?
It's in the zoning ordinance.
Understood, but why would they have changed it?
It was arbitrational. They come up with that number, so you know, they come up with that number.
Isn't that like the 400-foot
The
swap?
state came out with one number, and this has been my axe for a long time, I've been grinding here. The state came out with.
I thought it was a
Can we motion to approve this?
The states come out with one number, and then we come out with another number to top that number. So, I know.
That's
It's a
a rather jaded
scientific
view of it.
base.
There must have been some thought behind
I'm
it.
trying to let you know.
So my understanding.
That's why I asked the planner.
Yeah.
My understanding is that whenever the city adopts changes to its regulations, they are well thought out and founded on facts and science that we have researched. So my assumption is that 50 feet was chosen as an adequate buffer to provide protection to a wetland or water body.
You know, and I got that it's a hardship for you, sir, I really do. We had these buffers for a reason, and I don't recall any time when someone has come in asking for a variance to build into that buffer that we have denied him. What's the point of the buffer then? If we're going to give everybody a variance to go build in there, why have it?
But we're not giving everybody a variance, so you know. These are very isolated incidents that come in, they're onesies. If a developer comes in and he's going to develop the whole project, let me just explain it. And we're not going to give him a variance out of hand, so you know. So the buffer, we do adhere to the buffers, we really do. We have the onesies and twosies, as long as I've been on this board, probably we have 3 that I can think of, and I can't remember them specifically, that we accommodated the builder or the homeowner, that kind of thing. But I've been on the board, 12 years or something like that, and I think it's only about 3 times that it occurred.
Well, wait a second, so we just gave tacit approval for encroachment into that 10-foot setback. That buffer area.
No, that other guy is 50 feet out.
I got that, but he's closer than he's supposed to be, and we said that's okay.
No, he's not closer to the wetlands.
He's closer to a setback. There's reasons for these setbacks.
No, the ruling is, okay, if he had 10 feet beyond the 50 feet, we told him, go to the 50 feet. Peg it at the 50 feet. Do you mean the previous guy? That's what we told him. So he's 50 feet away for his whole development.
He needed to be what?
50.
Thought he had to be 60 feet.
To accommodate the need of a 50-foot setback from the wetland.
Right.
Okay.
But there's a buffer area between the setback.
Because we have a
and the house.
generalized statement that says you're going to be 10 feet away from every setback.
Correct.
So when he showed his presentation, we talked about the perimeter property, 40 feet away plus 10, that's 50 feet. The purpose of that was because the 40-foot was done because if someone was building on the adjacent property, there'd be enough distance between the 2 homes, okay, or the 2 developments, right? So we came out and we said another 10 feet beyond that line. That's what he's saying. Why do if there's nothing there, and I'm not, in someone's backyard, why do I have to be the 10 feet away in addition to the 40 feet?
So
same way with the wetlands.
So it's all vacant land that will never be developed along that perimeter of that subdivision?
That's what I asked him. Everything's been done.
Nothing can get behind him.
Nothing can get behind him.
No, there's wetlands, there's a pond, there's...
Can I just say one more thing? So, what the planning board grants is a conditional use permit, not a variance. I just want to make, there is a difference.
Right.
And when the planning board grants a conditional use permit, there are specific criteria that they're considering. And if they consider those criteria and agree that it meets those criteria, that's when they grant the conditional use permit. So it's there for the protection, but also to ensure that if it needs to be encroached upon, there's proper mitigation and that other alternatives have been explored and they're just not going to work.
Do we have to go through that checklist before we grant a CUP?
I mean, it's in your packet and the answers to their questions are in their application and the staff review.
Okay.
So.
I'd be happy to go over them again.
I got it.
Answers are,
I've got, when we see what you've already done, we've got all the answers really right here. I have enough information.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Are we
Randy?
discussing this now, or is this still a public hearing?
No, we haven't got to that point yet. The applicant and then staff makes their recommendation, then we go to the public hearing.
So as was presented, when the original lots were developed, or building envelopes were developed, the city ordinance required a 30-foot setback from water bodies or buffers. The other thing to recognize is that these ponds are man-made, so they weren't, at that time, necessarily considered subject to the buffer. Over time, as we saw in the last one, you get wetlands and water bodies that develop as natural habitat, and so we have to then apply the buffer to them. So this is exactly that situation.
Yeah.
So the situation has changed, the condition of the wetland and water body, has changed, and the ordinance has changed. So what we're left with is a building envelope that is, fairly restricted, but that's why we have the processes in place.
So we have an application in front of us. My understanding is that the applicant hasn't quite figured out exactly what the house design is fully, or is that correct?
Yes, I bought, when I told you about the 50-foot, I bought a set of plans, threw them in the trash. So I've got a house picked out. This is the house. This is, and we took the scale off the 36 by 44. That's what we plotted on the plot. I have not paid the $2,000 or whatever it's going to be for the set of plans again. But this is the house we're going to build here. And like I say, the engineer, Dean Clark, took this, scaled it off this 36 by 44, and that's what he plotted on here. Maybe the jog might be a little different on front to back or something like that, but that's the house.
So they're requesting basically that's the maximum impact that they would do. If they did anything different, it would be less or maybe moved around a little bit. And that's why I, in my recommendations, have notes, plan revisions requested to be added, that they may not go beyond a certain distance in accordance with, certain distance or certain impact. So that, with the understanding that the planning board is approving kind of a maximum impact situation here, and it may be less, which is similar to, what did we see last month? What was it? The Pendleton CUP that we saw last month, where they said, this is what we'd like, but if we can do it smaller or less impact, we'd like to do that. So it's kind of along the same lines. So I would like to point out that the Conservation Commission is recommending that the footprint of the house be entirely contained within that 30-foot buffer, and that additional plantings be installed along the wetland buffer. There's a differing of opinions there, so it's, for the board to weigh that. But the lot does kind of crest and slope, so, the majority of the building will be at the top and kind of down toward the street, not towards the water this way. So it's up to the board whether they really feel that those additional plantings are necessary and whether you want to really make them shrink that back to the 30 feet. The house itself is no closer than 32 feet. So it's actually, outside of that 30-foot buffer. The patio is what extends into that 30 feet.
The house, as plotted here, Dean, get back to me with an email, it's 37.7 feet to the house, to the water. So now we're 37.5 feet from the house is. Then there's about a 12-foot patio.
So the patio is at ground level? It's not a deck, it's a patio?
Patio, correct.
Is it like a stone patio?
Yeah, some type of paver, bricks, pavers.
Paver. So that mitigates water flow, that slows it down, it brings it down.
Yep, be a permeable patio.
Oh, excellent, okay. So your recommendation is?
So my recommendation is for approval with the plan revisions as noted, and just, I wanted to call out that the recommendation in the staff review does not necessarily incorporate the Conservation Commission's recommendation, so that's for the board to decide if you want to add that as a plan revision or a condition. You're going to have to add that into your motion.
Okay. So we've had we had staff, now we open public hearing, and I opened a public hearing at 9:23.
I think someone back there had their hand up, yep.
Yeah, well, yes, and so if, first in a public hearing, if there is an abutter, butters always take precedent, then please, one at a time, or together if you want, whatever.
Hi, my name is Diane Sweeney. I live at 87 Carriage Lane. I guess it would be across the pond from where this house would be. I don't really know where it would be, kind of thing, so.
Around the corner, Diane, because I live on the other corner.
This house, it wouldn't be right out my
What he's talking about,
sunroom.
the house that they're putting down on the other end of the pond.
I don't know that I have
What's the name of your road?
Carriage Lane.
Carriage Lane. Yeah.
Okay.
You're on the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
This property is on the other end of the pond?
Yes. I live in one end, and she lives right around the corner from you. You're 6, right?
87.
87.
So in other words, you go past Mike's house and go around the end, is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I'm at the very end.
I understand, yeah.
I'm 12.
What are your comments, please?
I was just, I wasn't sure where the house would be placed.
Oh, okay.
And what I'd see when I looked out my sunroom window.
I'll catch you.
So I was just curious.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you came
yeah.
and asked.
Too bad it
got a
had to
little
happen
plan
at
if
this
you wanna
time of the
see it.
evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Can I look at this?
Sure.
Yeah.
He's got a little
Charge
house
you
for you,
extra.
too.
Have a whole package.
Well, my name's Bob Curran, and I live at 23 Surrey Lane, which is just directly opposite this lot. Okay, first of all, I have no real objection to a home being built there. Okay, as a matter of fact, I went through much of the same that you did in trying to build a house 5 years ago. I've lived in Laconia now for over 20 years. Lived in the Gables in Southdown for a long time, and then we got too young for that place, so we moved over and into Long Bay and have built a house ourselves. Not a lot of fun. One of the problems that we had in building that house is we had a 32-foot requirement, which I was held to the umpteenth tenth of an inch on by Mr. Anson, not the planning board. I must compliment the representative of the planning board that I've met in trying to find out how to handle this thing. They've been very helpful and very professional. The concern that I have on the lot is, as has been mentioned, is it's a creeping border, okay? We're not talking about just one house, but three, okay, because there are two other lots. And what one precedent set, or we're setting precedent for the other two, okay? Basically, I would be very happy with the 32 feet, or the 30-foot. We're within 5 feet of that, as I understand it right now, with the patio. Mine, I was held to a deck of 30 feet. I could not put my deck into the other area. I would like to request that you try and see if you can pull that 5 feet. Why do I do this? Is it for a lousy 5 feet or something like that? The answer is no. The answer is simply that there's another thing that goes along with building on a pond, and that is it's water, and water has an effect on sound, okay? One of the only negatives in living in our house is that there are a couple of houses that are built quite close to the water, closer than this house, frankly, is going to be. Okay, when they sit on their deck and talk on the telephone, I can hear almost both ends of the conversation because of the sound of the water. I would only ask that we try and maintain the original request, which I'm delighted to see that you've worked with, was to go to 20 feet. And my major concern was that. You have to understand that one of the things that happens when we allow these things to creep is we take a look at what the other aspects of it. It is water. Okay, it's not like living, across, like I was in the Gables and had a house that was 25 feet or 15 feet away. You literally can hear a conversation, okay, on one of the particular houses there, and there's no need to identify them. The house was built, they bought it, they've been refined neighbors. We have no complaints about any of the neighbors. I just ask that you consider the application and as to a request that we try and work with. So if I can build to 32 feet on the other side, I can't, in all good conscience, say to you, you should be held to 50. Okay, but I would like to see it held to the 30.
Why did you want to go beyond the 30? Why did you want to go less than the 37 feet?
I'm sorry?
When you were building your house?
Because we are by law, okay, and by the, for Willow Pond, which is a development that I live in, there is a water restriction on the pond that's 32 feet.
Why did you want to even get closer to the water, but you were held back to 30-something feet?
I didn't say I was. I said I was willing to live within the 32 feet, but I was held to that. We went right up to...
If there was no parameters, would you have done something a little different?
No, I would probably have been about 30 feet away. I thought, my own personal feeling is that 30 to 40 feet from the water is good.
So you didn't have an issue where you want to do something different, and then you went in for variance or anything like that? You just said, well, I'm fine with this, what they want me to do, and I'll do it, kind of a thing?
Well, I was made very clear to me that, first of all, let me make it very clear. It was made very clear to me that there would not be any variances granted.
Who told you that? Because-
I explained that to you, that it was not the planning board, but it was Long Bay itself. So I said that in the introduction to it. That's why I said that I'm not willing. I'm just trying to say that you have to have some border, because somebody else can come in and say, well, I'm going to build it 5 feet. All I'm just saying is say that there are some things. One of the things that I found at the 30 feet, okay, is that when you get close to the water, and that's something you're going to find out, is that when you sit on that deck, the sound is going to carry, okay? And what I'm saying is that try and keep these things, particularly on water, to something that's, somewhat reasonable, and that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking that you absolutely do this or hold it to the 50 feet. I'm just asking for some consideration on this and trying to make you aware of what the impact is of the water on people on the other side of the pond.
Well, I know. Hey, I live
that's
right
all.
on Pogus Bay, and I can
Yeah.
hear the Margate when they have weddings.
Yeah.
And I can hear that 10:30 at night coming across,
Yeah.
but that's a couple of miles across.
Yes, and it's also,
I'm not-
it's also loudspeakers and that, you're not hearing
But I'm
people
also,
talk.
like, I hear them laughing, and I'm a couple hundred feet from the edge of the water, too.
Yeah,
So
I
I don't
agree
know
with you, Bill.
how we can think that, I'm trying to follow your thought. So if there's
I-
something that we can do to mitigate that, that's what I'm trying to think about. Well, how do we do that?
All I'm trying to say is, one of the things is that I'm not talking about loudspeaker mile that I can hear from Nazwa, for instance, which is absolutely correct, okay? Or that, I'm talking about the spoken word across what is a small body of water, okay, and what the effect is. Okay, I'm just saying, please try to maintain it at some reasonable amount, okay? I'm not telling you what to do or saying it. I'm saying what it is, and that I think that the 30 feet, which was what, as I understand, was recommended, was by the Conservation Commission or whoever it is, that be held to. If not, I'm just asking that, that you try and see if you can work with that about 5 feet of it. Okay, and that's all that I'm asking for. And again, as I said, this isn't just one lot. Okay, there's 2 other lots there that haven't been sold. You go to 25 feet, and the other 2 houses that are going to come in at 25 feet, and maybe ask for less. Okay, I'm just asking, you have to consider about a line somewhere in the sand. Excuse me for using that.
You think the horses are at the barn because that's been basically developed over there now? I mean, there's been a lot that have gone to the old
But most of
the old
them are,
standard, you know what I mean?
most of them are at 30 feet. I think if you ask that, most of the houses I know, all of the ones in Willow Pond, which we share the pond, and then there are more houses in Willow Pond than there are in the Willows. I know that because we have to split the cost of maintaining the thing, right. So I'm just asking for that, Bill. I'm just asking
No,
for
I hear what
that.
you're
It's
saying.
nothing violent or anything like that.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So my question would be, when the next 2 property owners come in and ask for a conditional use permit to build closer than 30 feet, are we setting a precedent we're going to have to do that?
No, he didn't ask.
He said 30 feet. I got that. He didn't ask for it.
You got someone else?
I got that, but the next 2, there's 2 lots, and apparently, from what Mr. Fryer is saying, he was led to believe, either by the realtor or the owner of the property, that he could get as close as 20 feet, right? Is that what he said?
I told the building envelope, you can build in the building
But
envelope.
what you're saying could possibly be, but probably not, because this has a unique jog in the property. I mean, the back property line goes in and out. Now, if someone had something like that, we might want to consider it. But if they didn't have that uniqueness to it, then we might say, hey, we're not even going to consider you.
Okay.
It's Dr. Guest, right?
Jerry Guest, yes.
Dr. Jerry Guest, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm an old veterinarian, so
Maybe
it's...
he's the president of the Willows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
How are you? I am Jerry Guest, and I'm president of the Homeowners Association in the Willows, which is where Bob Fryer is hoping to build his house. There are 3 lots there. You're absolutely correct. And they're very tiny lots, and they were put there 20 years ago in those particular positions with those particular dimensions. And then the master plan layered over that a requirement that each structure be 25 feet apart. Well, you end up with, and if you observe a 50-foot and almost a 30-foot setback, you end up with 3 lots that are virtually unbuildable, or you could put a very small shed on it. So I'm here to tell you that I represent the Homeowners Association, and I very much endorse what Bob Fryer is trying to have done or get done through this board. And I very much am in favor of the recommendation that Randy has made. And I think it's a logical way to approach this issue. One of those lots on one side of Bob, that owner bought it in 2002, which is, 14 years ago. And I've never seen him. He's not planning to build a house in the very near future. The lot on the other side of him was bought in conjunction with a house that Dean Anson sold, and he sold the lot along with it. And that house was bought with the intention of keeping that lot as a buffer or privacy for that particular owner. So you're not going to be overwhelmed with people asking for variances or CUPs. And right now, I think Bob has done a great job in being extremely conscientious about developing this process and adhering to all the rules. And I certainly highly recommend that you approve this, and I certainly, as a homeowner president, endorse your doing. So, thank you very much.
Yes.
It says here, your group, so this, how many people are in this association that, is this everybody in the complex, or?
We have 29 property owners.
And they're all part of this?
Yes.
And so they voted to endorse this?
No, the board of directors voted. We didn't take this to a vote for the entire building.
Charlie, there's more than one association. I live in the Willow Pond Association, which is at the other end of that pond.
Okay.
And what he's saying is correct, because he lived on the trail's end, which was Dean Anson's area.
Yeah, I live on the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
And according to this, it says in lot 207, no, sorry, 208, there is one there with a setback of just 20 feet?
There's a house already there that was built in 2006. I don't have knowledge of how that permit was granted,
That's from the
or
old
what the
days.
setback was.
But they must have granted a setback.
No, back in those days, there was different
10 years ago.
requirements,
Yeah.
setbacks. So they could build closer to the water line.
I see, okay.
And then as time has gone by, we evolved it to a different, different,
Okay.
setbacks.
Sounds good.
When we built that house, Charlie, it was 30 feet from the water.
Yeah.
That house is, according to the GIS maps that the city has, is 20 feet. I mean, it's sitting right on the back of the envelope. So that's why I said at some point it must have been 20 feet. I don't know.
I did pull files for neighboring lots, and the planning board did grant CUPs. I don't recall if that's one of them off the top of my head, but the planning board did grant a few CUPs in that area to build within the buffer, so.
Thank you.
And just to repeat, the house is going to be 37 and a half feet away from the water. We're talking the corner of the patio, and I'd really like to keep that because I have to put the bulkhead on that side of the patio,
because
Yeah,
there's glass
that's-
windows
yeah.
and...
We heard that. Yeah,
Got it.
okay.
Are there any members of the Laconia, any taxpayers or stakeholders of Laconia that would like to address the board on this application? Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing at 9:39 PM. Is there any general discussion before we move to a motion? Seeing none, then I'll request a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this variance, change of...
Conditional use permit?
Setback.
Conditional use permit.
As delineated from the planning department of what their proposal is.
Is that okay? Do you need more?
Bill, are you saying that you make a motion that you approve PL 20160097
I don't
CUP?
want me to spit it out, but I get this here.
Yes.
I'm going by this drawing, yes, yes.
With the project completion deadlines, plan revisions, and other conditions as recommended in the staff review?
There you go, yep, fine with me.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Good.
I trust you.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? One opposed. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you very much, and very good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
That's a very nice neighborhood you're
I
joining.
don't think Ham opposed.
No, I didn't oppose.
No,
Did you?
it
He was just a little late pulling his hand down.
Yes, I did not oppose.
Did you use
Oh,
your-
okay,
Did you
okay.
use your left hand or your right hand?
No.
Right hand.
You missed that.
So, Kalina, I stand corrected. It was, oh, okay.
Sometimes we're supposed to use our right hand and we use our left.
Yeah, I do that occasionally.
That's all I... That's like
Some people don't
That's like
know
a
the
chag, you know, did it be ignored, did it really go that way?
Actually, our regulations call for right hand.
Oh, now we're getting too nitty-gritty.
I know, I thought so too. Let's see, thank you all. Let's see.
Move it along.
Moving along. Old business reports, planning department reports. Brandy?
I don't have a ton to report on. A lot of our construction sites are wrapping up for the winter. The asphalt plants close usually...
Could you move your meeting to the outside corridor, please?
Dave, that's not...
We have very official business to do here. Thank you all.
Usually the asphalt plants start closing around this time of year, so we won't see too much more paving or big work on the construction sites that we've approved around the city. A few months ago, a couple months ago now, but I don't remember if I mentioned it, the project across the street was completed, and they got their CO, and they've had people move in. If you haven't had a chance...
Multifamily housing?
Yep, the large River's Edge building. If you haven't had a chance to go by and check it out, they've got some really lovely community spaces.
I had a question. Somebody came to me and said that they applied there, and they said that they were told they made too much money. Is that low income? Is it low income or is it market rate?
It's workforce housing, and they base their rental rates on your income. That's my understanding, but if you have a serious question, you should certainly contact the land trust.
I was just trying to,
Yep.
that wasn't the issue, but whether or not it was presented to us as low-income housing was workforce housing.
I believe it was workforce housing, but the board doesn't approve the type,
Oh, okay.
just multifamily or the site plan. You don't approve the type.
Laconia Land Trust does pay property taxes to the city.
Yes.
I saw online that they are having one of the meet and greets or workforce thing. It's tomorrow night. At the, across the river here, at River's Edge.
Yeah.
And you can go through the property, and they have appetizers and things like that. I like those things. You get to see inside of things.
So that's one of our most recently finished projects. I just wanted to mention it to you
Daycare
guys.
active over there? I know
It should be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
no idea how many kids are in there right now.
It wasn't going to be very big. It was like 4 or 5. It wasn't very big
Yeah.
because they were infants.
But, yeah, I understand there was supposed to be a small number, but
Yep.
I thought maybe it'd be, many people trying to, for daycare over there. I mean, it seems like, you have more than 5 children
Yep.
that would need it, and what would that number?
They can only hold so many.
Yeah,
Like the
okay.
space is only big enough for a certain amount. So
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember the exact number, but anyway, that's one of the most recently completed projects that you all approved, so I want to mention that. Other than that, the only thing to update you on is that we do have a contract. It's not been signed yet. We're still reviewing it, but to finalize the agreement with the with LRPC to get the master plan finished up, and that will include community outreach for the housing chapter, the some follow-up outreach for the land use chapter, and the community services and facilities chapter. The timeline for that, as sketched out in the contract, would be to release a draft chapter, one per month, starting in January. It's a little ambitious, but that would be great. So then we could have one in January, one in February, one in March, and then in April, hopefully, we would have a master plan ready for adoption by the planning board, or for public hearing, and then however that may go, revisions or adoption. That may be, it may be, in reality, maybe a little slower. Maybe we'll be looking at May, but that's our plan anyway, and I think it's doable. So.
Okay. Conservation Commission, any comments from there?
Evan Rathburn is our new conservation tech. If you haven't met him, come on down to the office. Yep.
They get younger all the time, that's all that I'll say.
I know. I thought he was someone's
Younger
kid.
than us, Warren?
No.
He started about 2 weeks ago or so. This is his third week. And he's settling in. He's going to start walking the conservation easements that we hold with some members of the Conservation Commission, which will be great for him to get out and see the city even more than he has. And members of the Conservation Commission and Evan will be attending a stormwater conference in a couple of weeks. If anyone on the planning board is interested, you can let me know and I can send you the information.
Okay.
I have kind of an ancillary question. So the planning board, the zoning board, and the Conservation Commission, we kind of oversee newly proposed development. Is it safe to say? Zoning might be existing if
We
they're
don't do
looking for a
code
variance.
enforcement.
What's that?
We do not do.
Well, that was my question. Who oversees code enforcement?
The code department?
No. Who oversees the code department?
Well, right now, me,
So who oversees you?
Scott.
City Manager Myers.
I'm sorry?
Scott Myers.
Oh, okay, so there's no board that oversees code?
There's a building code board of appeals, but that's not for code enforcement.
To whom does code enforcement report statistics, things that are going on, that kind of thing?
To me and Scott Myers.
Okay, so it's really left with the city manager.
Well, I mean, the director of planning and code is the director of planning and code. That person is responsible for that.
Got it.
And I mean, the city manager is in charge of every department head, so, yeah.
So you serve two masters. You serve us, and you serve the city manager.
I serve the city and its citizens and my volunteers, and, yep.
Polish that right up.
Yep.
Great.
That's why they want that job.
I get it.
Lakes Region Planning Commission, our last meeting was focused on accessory dwelling units. The ZTF is refining that, and just about got it locked, and we'll bring that in for a presentation here. It's to comply with new state law. It's a really good thing, can add to our housing stock. The other thing that...
Condos or townhouses, does it?
No.
No.
It has to be a single-family home.
Yeah. And it applies to all zones in the city that allow for single-family homes. The other thing was a presentation. Nashua Regional Planning Commission has done a project with their members of accumulating the electricity usage for the communities. And they can have a special word for it. I keep forgetting. I can't pronounce words anyhow. That pull it together and bid it out.
Aggregation.
Yeah, that's it, aggregation. And they bid it out, and there's a savings for municipal electric uses.
Isn't always, it can be. Isn't always.
Okay.
Depends on the load.
Well, I don't believe in always or never anyhow, so. Okay, that's it. You talked about conservation, city council, anything that you would like to?
No, I'm just very glad I was here. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Saw us in action, huh? What do you think?
I don't want to come back. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
work, and
exciting.
I'm missing the World Series. so-
Okay, so then, acceptance of minutes from October 4th, they were distributed electronically, you had a chance to, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of October 4th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded, any discussion, seeing none, I'll call the question, all those, you've got a question?
No, sorry.
Oh, you were just
Jumping the
ahead of...
gun.
Jumping the gun.
Youth, yeah, does it all the time.
happens.
All those in favor, raise their right hand, any opposed, any abstentions, it passes.
I'm approving this one.
Okay,
I'm
great.
abstaining because I wasn't here.
I'm abstaining,
You're abstaining, okay, you don't have to, but,
but I wasn't
But he
here.
wasn't
oh,
here.
that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't, but legally, you don't have
But
to.
I want to.
You can do whatever you want, Charlie. The other
No, you
thing
did the right thing,
is,
Charlie.
is there a
You're
motion to
appointed.
adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second? Motion made, seconded, any